Hidden deep in the midst of myth and legend are structures that challenge our modern understanding of history and human capabilities. These terrifying antediluvian monuments are scattered all over the globe, from the high plateaus of the Andes to the desert plains of the Middle East and the sunken depths of the Pacific Ocean. They are colossal megalithic complexes, perfectly fitted stone blocks weighing hundreds and thousands of tons, as well as engineering solutions that seem to be significantly ahead of the technologies attributed to ancient civilizations. Their very existence raises a fundamental question. Who, how, and why built these titanic structures, if not human hands as we know them, and with the tools believed to have been possessed by our ancestors? For decades, archaeologists, historians, and independent researchers have struggled to solve these mysteries. Official science often offers explanations based on vast amounts of labor, primitive tools, and millennia of painstaking labor. According to this view, ancient people, with a deep empirical knowledge of materials and mechanics, as well as a myriad of time and human resources, could have created these wonders. To many, however, these explanations seem insufficient to explain the filigree precision, cosmic scale, and inexplicable synchronicity of some of these structures. Skeptics point to the inexplicable fit of polygonal blocks, the absence of traces of primitive tools on smooth surfaces, as well as the logistical problems of moving multi-ton loads over huge distances without using a wheel or complex mechanisms. These anomalies give rise to alternative theories that put forward hypotheses about forgotten technologies that were lost as a result of global cataclysms, about the influence of extraterrestrial civilizations that shared their knowledge with humanity, or even about the existence of antediluvian giant races or highly developed civilizations that were wiped off the face of the earth as a result of catastrophic events, leaving behind only these incomprehensible evidence of its existence. These mysterious structures are not just silent stones. They are silent witnesses to eras long past, whispers from long-gone civilizations that may have possessed knowledge and abilities beyond our current understanding. Their presence challenges our linear view of human progress, suggesting that Earth's history may have been much more cyclical and that civilizations may have reached their peak, then disappeared, taking their secrets to the depths of time. Each of these places contains echoes of catastrophes, changes, and evolution that turn the course of history. Their existence forces us to rethink not only the past of humanity, but also its future, as well as our place in the universe, reminding us of the greatness and mystery of being. Sacsayhuamán zigzags of incredible precision and lost Inca technology. At an altitude of 3,700 meters above sea level, Sacsayhuamán rises like a gigantic crown crowning the ancient Inca capital of Cusco in Peru, Sacsayhuamán. It is a cyclopean structure, often referred to as a fortress, although its true purpose is still the subject of heated debate among historians and archaeologists. The complex impresses with its scale and especially with the incredible precision of polygonal masonry, which is the hallmark of the pre-Columbian civilizations of the Andes. 3 parallel zigzag walls, stretching for hundreds of meters, are lined with giant, irregular stones, some of which reach truly colossal dimensions. The largest blocks are estimated to weigh up to 200 tons, measure about 8.5 meters high, and fit so tightly together that, as local guides like to demonstrate, you can't even fit a razor blade or a piece of paper between them. The lack of any binding solution, such as cement or clay, only reinforces the impression of the incredible skill of the builders, who are able to create a structure that can withstand numerous earthquakes in this seismically active region. The main and most stunning mystery of Sacsayhuamán is how these multi-ton blocks were transported, processed, and installed with such incredible precision. Stones for construction were delivered from the nearest quarries, which, according to some sources, were located at a distance of up to 20 kilometers from Cusco. The path to the construction site was rough, including ascents and descents, which makes the task of moving such masses without using a wheel or developed traction power. The Incas did not use horses or oxen, almost impossible for traditional methods. Modern engineers recognize that even with the use of powerful modern technology, such as hydraulic cranes and heavy trucks, moving stones of this weight would be a colossal task, requiring special equipment that is still the pinnacle of engineering. Traditional archaeology holds the hypothesis that the Incas moved the stones using wooden rollers, ramps, ropes made of plants, and a huge amount of labor. Tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people working at the same time. However, this hypothesis faces serious difficulties. How to ensure that the ropes are strong enough for such loads, how to evenly distribute the efforts of thousands of people, and, most importantly, how to achieve such a filigree fit of the blocks without hard metal tools. The Incas are known to have used bronze and stone tools that seem completely inadequate for cutting and fine-fitting hard rocks, such as andesite or diorite. Many blocks have no obvious traces of percussion instruments, and the surfaces look as if the stones were cut and inserted into their places with a geometric precision that involves the use of advanced technologies, possibly different from percussive and abrasive methods. Some blocks have convex or concave surfaces that perfectly match the shape of the neighboring stone, which eliminates the possibility of simple cutting and requires incredible accuracy of measurement and cutting. In addition to the complexity of transportation and fitting, the true purpose of Sacsayhuamán also raises questions. Although it is often called a fortress because of its impressive walls, many researchers believe that its functions were much broader. Its zigzag shape, which some compare to the shape of a lightning bolt, may have had deep symbolic or religious significance. The Incas believed in the symbolism of lightning and the serpent, and it is possible that Sacsayhuamán was not just a defensive structure, but a huge temple dedicated to the deity of thunder and lightning, Illapa, or even part of an astronomical observatory that uses shadows and light to track celestial phenomena and predict cycles. Local lore and Inca folklore also add a mystical aura to the structure. They say that Sacsayhuamán was built not by humans, but by a crooked god, Apu Kontiksi Wirakucha, who could levitate stones with the power of thought, or by giant people with incredible physical strength, or even supernatural beings. These myths, while not scientifically proven, reflect the deep amazement of the ancient inhabitants at this monumental structure, which they could not attribute to ordinary human efforts. Among the alternative versions, there are often hypotheses about softening the stone with the help of unknown plant extracts, which would allow cutting and forming blocks like plasticine, or about sound levitation, which uses acoustic waves to move heavy objects. These hypotheses, although they sound fantastic, try to explain the inexplicable. The absence of tool marks on the surface of the stones, their perfect fit and cyclopean size, as well as the fact that some stones seem to bleed, deforming under pressure. Sacsayhuamán, with its awesome power and enigmatic precision, continues to stand as a silent witness to lost knowledge, challenging our understanding of ancient engineering and making us wonder what secrets history hides buried under layers of academic hypotheses and myths. It's not just a fortress, it's a monument of engineering genius and cosmic design that still stuns and makes you wonder about the antediluvian possibilities that forever changed the landscape of the Andes. The complex is dominated by a peak that offers panoramic views of Cusco. This place served not only as a defensive point, but also probably as a center for large-scale ceremonies, rituals, and even mass gatherings, as evidenced by the presence of large squares and perfectly aligned terraces. The Incas, known for their sophisticated road system and organization, certainly had the ability to mobilize vast numbers of people for projects of this magnitude. However, the question remains in the technologies and methods used. For example, one of the frequently discussed mysteries is the so-called water channels, or water stairs, in the territory of Sacsayhuamán. Some researchers suggest that these perfectly cut channels in the rock served not only to divert water, but also perhaps were part of some kind of hydraulic or even sound system used to facilitate the processing and movement of stones. Their shape and precision are amazing, especially when you consider the lack of advanced Inca metals and cutting tools that can work so accurately with hard rocks. Theories about the pre-Inca origin of Sacsayhuamán are also noteworthy. Although the Incas actively used and completed the complex, some elements of the foundation and lower tiers of masonry are noticeably different in style and quality from typical Inca buildings. This gave rise to hypotheses that the Incas only used and modified an older structure built by a previous, much more advanced civilization, about which we know very little or not at all. These supposed proto-civilizations may have possessed technologies that allowed them to manipulate the stone at this level. At the same time, it is worth noting that research continues, and each new find only adds questions to this majestic monument. The seismic stability of Sacsayhuamán is also a miracle. Despite the fact that Cusco is in an area of high seismic activity, polygonal masonry withstands earthquakes due to its flexibility and lack of mortar, allowing the stones to dance during tremors and return to their places. This is a property called anti-seismic. Masonry speaks about the deep understanding of the geological features of the region by the builders, which in itself is an amazing knowledge for the ancient peoples. Stonehenge megalith circle of eternal mystery and cosmic orientation. In the heart of England, on the Salisbury Plain, stands Stonehenge, one of the most famous and mysterious megalithic complexes in the world. Built over several phases between 3000 and 2000 BC, this prehistoric monument is not just a pile of stones, but an elaborate architectural and astronomical structure. It consists of two main types of stones: massive vertical sarsen, local sandstone, reaching 7 meters in height and weighing up to 50 tons, and smaller but no less mysterious blue stones, dolerite, rhyolite, and tuff, weighing up to 4 tons. The stones are arranged in elaborate circles and horseshoes, creating a monumental structure that scientists believe served as a ceremonial center, burial site, and, most intriguingly, an astronomical observatory. The precise orientation of the complex at the solstices and equinoxes, which allows us to track the movement of the sun and moon, indicates the amazing astronomical knowledge of its builders, which exceeds the capabilities of primitive societies. The main and most long-standing mystery of Stonehenge is the transportation and installation of these colossal stones. Sarsens, which make up the outer circles, and trilithons, two vertical pillars with a horizontal lintel, were brought from the quarries of Marlborough Downs, located 30 kilometers north of Stonehenge. However, the blue stones that form the inner circle and the horseshoe are a much bigger mystery. Studies have shown that they were brought from the Preseli Hills in Wales, which is almost 250 kilometers away. This route took place through rough terrain, including crossing rivers and possibly even sea transportation. How could the ancient people, who did not know the wheel, or at least did not use it for such a scale, and did not have a developed traction force other than human, move these multi-ton blocks over such huge distances? Traditional archaeological hypotheses suggest the use of complex systems of wooden skating rinks, sleds, ropes made of plants and leather, as well as earthen ramps. However, the scale of such work seems incredible. Moving a 50-ton sarsen alone would require hundreds, if not thousands, of people working for weeks or months. Moreover, the very process of lifting these stones vertically and installing horizontal lintels to such a height remains the subject of heated debate. Theories range from using complex systems of levers and counterweights to creating huge earth mounds that were then removed. But even with the most optimistic calculations, such work would be heroic and extremely time-consuming, requiring unprecedented organization and coordination of work. In addition to the engineering mysteries, Stonehenge impresses with its astronomical accuracy. The complex is located in such a way that on the day of the summer solstice, the sun rises exactly above the heel stone, located outside the main circle. On the winter solstice, the sun sets between two sarsens, forming the central trilithon. This precise orientation demonstrates a deep understanding of celestial mechanics, the cyclical nature of the seasons, and the ability to predict eclipses. How could the ancients, without telescopes, accurate chronometers, or modern measuring instruments, have achieved such precision in their observations and calculations over the centuries? This implies a sophisticated timekeeping system, generations of observers who carefully passed on their knowledge, and possibly a specialized class of priest astronomers or shamans who could interpret the celestial signs. Some researchers suggest that Stonehenge may have been part of a much larger network of astronomical observatories spread across Britain, indicating a single, developed culture. Alternative theories trying to explain the inexplicable put forward hypotheses about the use of unknown technologies or the intervention of external forces. Some proponents of paleocontact suggest that knowledge about construction and astronomy may have been passed on to the Stonehenge builders by extraterrestrial civilizations, that may have had a direct impact on the development of ancient cultures. Others speak of the power of thought or sound levitation, by which the ancients were able to lift and move stones with ease, using some lost secret of acoustic energy. There are also versions that Stonehenge was built by an antediluvian civilization of giants, or a race that had other physical abilities that exceed the capabilities of an ordinary person. In Celtic and English folklore, Stonehenge is often associated with the wizard Merlin, who, according to legend, magically brought stones from Ireland, or with the dance of giants, who turned to stone at dawn. These myths, while not scientifically proven, reflect a deep wonder and mystical perception of the monument that transcended human understanding and forced us to look for explanations in the realm of the supernatural. Stonehenge is not just an ancient calendar or ritual site, it is a colossal structure that whispers of incredible effort and perhaps alien wisdom, continuing to remain an eternal mystery in the heart of the British land and a challenge for anyone trying to fathom the secrets of the ancient world. Stonehenge has undergone many changes throughout its history. It was not just a single stage of construction, but a complex evolution that began long before the appearance of most megalithic structures. At first, it was an earthen rampart in moat with a ring of 56 wooden posts or pits, known as Aubrey holes. Later, bluestones appeared, and then massive sarcens. Each stage added new functionality and a new layer of puzzles. For example, to create perfectly smooth sarsen surfaces and their groove-spike connections required not only huge efforts, but also amazing skill in working with stone. How did the ancient builders achieve such precision if their tools were only primitive hammers and chisels made of stone? Experiments with recreating Stonehenge's construction methods tend to be incredibly time-consuming and can't always explain every detail, especially the fitting and lifting of horizontal lintels to such a height. Stonehenge is inextricably linked to burial sites, which indicates its role as a necropolis or place of ancestral worship. Numerous human remains dating from different periods have been found, highlighting its ritual significance. However, its astronomical functions remain a central research topic. The solstices and equinoxes were of great importance to ancient agricultural societies, determining the cycles of sowing and harvesting, as well as religious holidays. Stonehenge was a kind of cosmic clock that allowed you to accurately track these moments. The precision with which it is aligned with the sun surpasses many later structures and raises questions about how this knowledge was acquired and transmitted. Some researchers suggest that this place was used to observe lunar cycles and predict eclipses, which required even more complex astronomical calculations. Such a deep understanding of celestial mechanics in Neolithic society remains one of Stonehenge's greatest mysteries, challenging our understanding of the knowledge and capabilities of the people of that era. This place continues to attract millions of visitors, scientists, and mystery seekers, all of whom are trying to unravel the grand purpose behind the creation of this majestic stone circle. The pyramids of Bosnia, hidden hills of energy and ancient secrets. In the heart of Europe, on the territory of Bosnia and Herzegovina, near the town of Visoko, is one of the most controversial and intriguing archaeological mysteries of the mid-21st century, the Pyramids of Bosnia. This complex consists of several hills, which according to Bosnian archaeologist Semir Osmanagic, are the oldest man-made pyramids in the world, surpassing in age even the famous Egyptian and Mexican structures. Since 2005, Osmanagic, supported by enthusiasts, volunteers, and independent researchers from all over the world, has been actively excavating, claiming that the Visocika Hills, Pyramid of the Sun, Pleshavika, Pyramid of the Moon, Dragon Hill, Love Hill, and Earth Temple are not just natural geological formations, but colossal man-made structures built by an unknown ancient civilization. The main and hottest mystery of the Bosnian pyramids is, of course, their artificial origin. Most academic archaeologists, geologists, and historians categorically reject Osmanagic's theory, insisting that these hills are natural formations known as table mountains or flat hills that were formed as a result of multi-million-year processes of erosion and weathering. They point to the lack of direct, indisputable evidence of purposeful construction activity, such as large-scale soil dumps or obvious tool marks on the rocks that could indicate large-scale human work. Critics also point out that Osmanagich does not have a classical archaeological background, and his excavation methodology raises questions in the academic community. However, despite the skepticism, research continues, and every year new data appear that add fuel to the fire of this scientific discussion. However, proponents of the Osmanagich theory cite a number of arguments in favor of man-made origin, which in their opinion are difficult to explain solely by natural processes, and which continue to attract thousands of tourists and researchers. The hills have strikingly regular geometric shapes, resembling pyramids, with perfectly smooth faces oriented exactly to the cardinal directions, east-west, north-south, which is extremely unusual for natural formations of this scale. On the slopes of the Pyramid of the Sun were found large, regular-shaped blocks, which, according to the results of analysis, consist of ancient concrete or geopolymer cement, much more durable than the modern one. Analyses conducted at various institutes, for example in Poland and Italy, showed that the material has an unusual composition, high content of calcium and silicon, and high hardness, and also differs from the natural sandstone of the region. Under the complex, there is an extensive network of underground tunnels with a total length of tens of kilometers, which, according to Osmanagich, are part of a single system. These tunnels, according to supporters, were dug artificially, have ventilation shafts, and inside them were found megalithic blocks covered with mysterious symbols and stone spheres that may have served as energy sources. The researchers also claim that anomalous electromagnetic fields, ultrasonic radiation, and some energy rays directed upwards are recorded above the top of the Pyramid of the Sun. These phenomena have no explanation within the framework of ordinary geology and may indicate the use of ancient builders of energy principles unknown to us, or that the pyramids are a kind of energy generators. If these structures are man-made, then their age, according to some estimates based on geological data and radiocarbon dating of organic materials found in the tunnels, for example, wood fragments, can reach 12,000 to 25,000 years. This makes them significantly older than the Egyptian pyramids and corresponds to the period after the last glacial maximum, which challenges the entire accepted chronology of human development, pointing to the existence of a civilization that preceded the known ones. One of the most convincing arguments of the proponents of the theory of artificial origin is the geometric correctness of the main hills. The Pyramid of the Sun, in particular, shows 4 clear faces, which, according to measurements, are almost perfectly oriented to the cardinal directions. This level of precision and orientation is rare in natural geological formations. Especially at this scale, geologists usually attribute this to tectonic movements and selective erosion, but the coincidence of all these factors in one place looks like an incredible combination of circumstances. Moreover, the slope of the faces of the Pyramid of the Sun is approximately 45 degrees, which is typical for many famous pyramid structures around the world. The discovery of artificial concrete or geopolymer cement is another cornerstone of Osmanagich's theory. Laboratory analyses of samples taken from blocks on the surface of the pyramids have shown that their composition and microstructure differ from the natural conglomerate or sandstone typical of this region. Instead, they exhibit characteristics consistent with artificial cementitious materials containing binders other than natural ones. If these blocks are indeed man-made concrete, this indicates extremely advanced chemical and engineering knowledge among the ancient builders, which significantly exceeds what we attribute to the cultures of this era. The ability to create such a strong and durable material thousands of years ago is a mystery in its own right, pointing to lost technologies. Extensive network of underground tunnels under the Visoko complex, called the Ravni tunnels, is another unexplained feature. These tunnels stretch for kilometers, have a constant height and width, and contain ventilation systems, which indicates their artificial origin. Inside the tunnels, megalithic blocks were found, some of which are covered with symbols that have not yet been deciphered. In addition, numerous stone spheres of various sizes were discovered, the purpose of which remains unknown, although some suggest that they could be part of an energy system or navigation devices. Measurements in the tunnels also revealed low levels of electromagnetic radiation and no negative cosmic radiation, which, according to proponents of the theory, creates a favorable environment for meditation and healing, and may also indicate the protective or energetic functions of the tunnels. Finally, the energy anomalies recorded over the Pyramid of the Sun are the most futuristic aspect of research. Measurements made by various teams of physicists indicate the presence of a narrowly focused energy beam emanating from the top of the pyramid, as well as ultrasonic radiation at certain frequencies. These phenomena have no explanation in the framework of modern geology and physics, if the hills are purely natural formations. If these structures are artificial, then such anomalies may indicate that the pyramids serve not just as religious structures, but as giant energy devices, perhaps for communication, healing, or some other purpose that we can only guess at. This in turn opens up the possibility that the ancient civilization of Bosnia possessed knowledge in the field of free energy or resonant technologies that were lost and are only now being re-explored. The Bosnian Pyramids, hidden under the cover of the earth and shrouded in heated debates, continue to whisper about forgotten civilizations and their connection to the planet's energies, waiting for their grandiose secrets to be fully recognized and solved. Göbekli Tepe, the cradle of civilization or a forgotten temple before the flood? In southeastern Anatolia, in present-day Turkey, is Göbekli Tepe, a place that literally turned our understanding of the origins of civilization and religious beliefs upside down. Discovered in the 1990s and extensively researched under the supervision of German archaeologist Klaus Schmidt, this ancient megalithic complex dates from an astounding age of around 9600–8200 BCE, making it approximately 6,000 years older than Stonehenge and 7,000 years older than the Egyptian pyramids. This site, built in the pre-ceramic Neolithic, the era before the appearance of ceramics, was created by hunter-gatherers, which strongly contradicts the established theory that monumental construction and organized religion arose only after the transition to sedentary agriculture. Göbekli Tepe is thus the oldest known temple complex in the world, and its existence calls into question the very foundation of our knowledge of the development of human society. The complex consists of many circular and oval structures, each containing massive T-shaped megalithic columns, some of which reach 5.5 meters in height and weigh up to 15 to 20 tons. These columns are carefully carved from local limestone, and many of them are decorated with intricate and detailed reliefs depicting various animals, snakes, foxes, wild boars, birds, especially vultures, as well as abstract symbols and even possibly stylized human figures. What makes Göbekli Tepe even more mysterious is that after several hundred or thousands of years of use, these monumental structures were deliberately and carefully covered with earth and debris, and then new, smaller complexes were built on top. This process of burying temples was repeated several times, which indicates a certain ritual or practical significance of falling asleep. The main mystery of Göbekli Tepe lies not only in its amazing age and the fact that it was built by hunter-gatherers, but also in the methods of its construction. How could people who are supposed to have been nomadic and had no developed tools have been able to mine, move, and install multi-ton stones, as well as carve such complex and detailed reliefs on them? Given the lack of wheels, draft animals, and advanced metal tools in that era, the logistics of such construction is extremely complex. Traditional archaeological explanations suggest the use of primitive stone tools such as chipped flint tools and a huge amount of human power to move the stones using ropes and rollers. However, creating such smooth surfaces and complex reliefs requires tools with much greater hardness and sharpness than those thought to have been available in the Neolithic. The lack of settlements, running water, irrigation systems, or other signs of permanent habitation also indicates that this was not a city, but rather a major ceremonial center that attracted people from a vast region. Beyond engineering and construction issues, Göbekli Tepe challenges our understanding of the origin of religion and complex social organization. Before its discovery, it was believed that the monumental construction and development of a complex hierarchy in society is possible only after the emergence of agriculture, which provides a food surplus, a sedentary lifestyle, and specialization of labor. Göbekli Tepe proves the opposite. Perhaps it was the need for joint construction of grandiose temples and participation in large-scale rituals that prompted people to unite, create more complex social structures, and then develop agriculture to provide food for a large number of people working in construction. This reverses the traditional causal relationship. It was not agriculture that gave rise to civilization and religion, but perhaps religion and the need for monumental construction became the catalyst for the development of agriculture and settlement. The symbolism and astronomical orientation of Göbekli Tepe also cause a lot of speculation. Images of animals, especially predators and dangerous creatures, as well as vultures, can indicate a complex mythology associated with the afterlife, death, rebirth, or star constellations. Some researchers suggest that the location of the columns and the images on them could serve as a kind of astronomical calendar or a map of the starry sky used to track celestial phenomena such as solstices or comets. For example, some columns, according to one hypothesis, can represent constellations, and their location mimics the position of stars in the sky at a certain epoch. Moreover, the scene depicting falling figures and vultures was interpreted as a record of a comet or large meteorite impact, which, according to one theory, occurred around 10,900 BC, the Younger Dryas event, causing a sharp cold snap and global climate change. If this interpretation is correct, then Göbekli Tepe is not only a temple but also the oldest record of a cosmic catastrophe, and its builders had sophisticated astronomical knowledge and the ability to record events long-term. The fact of deliberately falling asleep complexes also remains one of the most intriguing mysteries. Why did such colossal efforts have been spent not only on the construction, but also on the complete burial of these monumental structures under thousands of tons of earth? This could be due to a change in religious beliefs, the end of a certain cycle, or a desire to preserve the shrine for future generations, hiding it from destruction or the influence of a changed world. There is a hypothesis that this was done to protect against an approaching catastrophe, perhaps the same flood that is mentioned in numerous myths of ancient peoples. If this is the case, then Göbekli Tepe is not only evidence of a lost civilization or religion, but also a warning, as well as confirmation of global cataclysm that could destroy much more advanced societies than we imagine. Göbekli Tepe is thus the key to understanding not only the origin of human civilization, but also its cyclical development, offering a completely new perspective on the antediluvian world and the possibilities of our earliest ancestors. Puma Punku and Tiwanaku, the mystery of machine, stone processing, and ancient metallurgy. On the high plateau of Bolivia, at an altitude of almost 3,900 meters above sea level, there are the ruins of two ancient complexes, Tiwanaku and the nearby, even more mysterious, Puma Punku. These sites, which date from 500 to 1000 AD in traditional archaeology, although proponents of alternative theories insist on a much older origin, perhaps as far back as 12,000 years ago, are some of the most striking examples of incredible stone processing that seems to surpass all known technologies of ancient civilizations. If Tiwanaku is known for its massive monolithic structures, such as the Gate of the Sun and the colossal temple, then Puma Punku is an absolute mystery that defies any rational explanation. Here, among the randomly scattered rubble, lie thousands of perfectly carved and polished blocks of andesite and diorite, extremely hard rocks. These blocks have such precise angles, grooves, slots, and holes that it looks as if they were processed not with primitive tools, but with the help of high-precision machines. The main mystery of Puma Punku and Tiwanaku is the fantastic precision of stone processing. Many blocks in Puma Punku are L-shaped, H-shaped, and I-shaped, cut with millimeter precision, as if they were created from a template and designed to be assembled like the parts of a giant constructor. The surfaces of these stones are so smooth and the angles are so straight, often with a deviation of less than 0.5 degrees, that it is almost impossible to achieve this without using modern high-precision machines with diamond or laser cutting tools. The stones show fine grooves, perfect holes, and indentations that appear to be marks from drills or milling cutters. For example, some blocks are found to have holes drilled at a perfect angle, and screw threads are visible inside them, which cannot be explained by manual drilling. This raises the question, what tools were used to work with such hard rocks, if the ancient peoples of the Andes are believed to have had access only to stone and bronze tools? A stone, such as andesite, has a Mohs hardness of 6 to 7, which is comparable to steel, and it is simply impossible to process it with ordinary copper or bronze tools. The transportation of these megaliths is also a huge mystery. Andesite quarries were located up to 90 kilometers from Pumapunku, and the nearest sandstone quarry was 10 kilometers away. Moving multi-ton blocks, some of them weigh up to 130 tons, over rough terrain at such a height where there are no trees for making skating rinks, and without a developed road network or draft animals, seems incredible. Given the rarefied mountain air, which significantly reduces the physical capabilities of a person, the task becomes even more difficult. Traditional explanations based on thousands of workers and primitive methods seem even less convincing here than in other megalithic complexes. The lack of traces of dragging or ramps, as well as the way in which the stones were fitted together without mortar, indicates the use of unknown lifting and positioning methods. Alternative theories to explain these anomalies include the use of unknown technologies that could soften the rock, allowing it to form, or technologies based on sound waves, vibrations, or even anti-gravity. There are suggestions that these could be advanced tools that use electricity or some chemical reagents to dissolve or cut the stone. Other hypotheses link the construction of Pumapunku with extraterrestrial civilizations that could transfer their technology or even participate in the creation of the complex themselves. Also often mentioned is the idea of an antediluvian civilization that existed long before the known cultures and had a high level of technological development, but was destroyed by a global cataclysm, leaving behind only these incredible ruins. Radiocarbon dating of organic materials found at the site indicates an age of about 1,500 to 2,500 years, but these data relate to later layers and cannot refute the age of the lowest and oldest megalithic layers. Some archaeological and astronomical studies indicate the exact orientation of colossal by astronomical events 15,000, 17,000 years ago, which could move the time of the foundation of these complexes to the last ice age. Local traditions and myths of the Aymara people, descendants of the builders of Tiwanaku, also add to the mystery. They talk about Viracocha, bearded light beings who came from heaven and taught people how to work stone and build cities, or about giant people who have supernatural abilities. These myths reflect the deep bewilderment of the ancient inhabitants themselves regarding the origin of these monumental structures. The ruins of Pumapunku, which look as if they were scattered by a giant explosion or a powerful earthquake, may be evidence of such a catastrophe, possibly related to the biblical flood or other global cataclysms that led to the disappearance of the Antediluvian civilization. This catastrophe could not only destroy the structures, but also wipe out the knowledge and technology that their creators possessed. Pumapunku and Tiwanaku. They continue to stand as the most convincing archaeological evidence for the existence of highly advanced technologies in ancient times, challenging the entire academic chronology of human development and suggesting that we reflect on a completely different, lost chapter of our history. The underground cities of Cappadocia, hidden worlds and unknown destination. In central Anatolia, on the territory of modern Turkey, there is a unique alien beauty of the Cappadocia Valley. Known for its magic chimneys, bizarre geological formations made of soft volcanic rocks. This area hides one of the most amazing and large-scale archaeological mysteries, a vast network of ancient underground cities. The most famous of them are Derinkuyu and Kemakli, but they are only a part of the more than 200 similar underground complexes discovered in the region. These multi-level cities extend tens or even hundreds of meters deep, forming a maze of tunnels, rooms, warehouses, stables, wells, ventilation shafts, and even churches. According to the official version, these cities were built by early Christians in the Byzantine era to hide from the persecution of the Arabs and Mongols. But the scale of construction, the complexity of engineering solutions, and some archaeological finds make many researchers doubt this chronology and suggest a much older origin. The main mystery of the underground cities of Cappadocia lies in their colossal scale and complexity of construction. Derinkuyu, for example, goes to a depth of up to 85 meters and can accommodate up to 20,000 people, along with livestock and supplies. These are not just caves, but carefully planned and carved in volcanic tuff, a relatively soft but still demanding rock. Structures with a well-thought-out system of ventilation, water supply, and defense. Ventilation shafts, some of which reach depths of tens of meters, provide air circulation at all levels, which is a complex engineering task even for modern technologies. How did the ancient builders, lacking heavy machinery, hard metal tools, and modern lighting techniques, manage to dig up such gigantic underground complexes? The answer, thousands of people with picks and shovels, seems too simplistic for this amount of work. The absence of huge dumps of rock on the surface also raises questions. Where did the millions of cubic meters of excavated soil go? This indicates that construction may have been much longer and more gradual, or methods were used to recycle or hide the extracted rock. The purpose of these cities is also controversial. Although they are officially considered to have served as shelters, some elements of their architecture and layout seem redundant for simple protection. For example, massive stone millstone doors that could have been rolled up to completely block passageways weigh up to half a ton. They could only be pushed in from the inside. This indicates a serious defensive strategy. However, perhaps their true purpose was more complex. Some proponents of alternative theories suggest that underground cities serve not only to protect themselves from humans, but also from global cataclysms, such as strong earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, or even larger disasters, such as meteorites or climate changes that could cause people to go underground for a long time. In this context, their age could be much older, referring to Antediluvian times, when humanity was experiencing a period of global upheaval. In addition, there is evidence that the deepest levels of these cities, and possibly their original parts, may have been built much earlier than the Byzantines. Archaeological finds, such as Neolithic stone tools found in some tunnels, indicate activity in the region well before the Christian era. The Hittites, Phrygians, and other ancient peoples who inhabited Anatolia may have been involved in the initial stage of construction. However, the scale and technology required to create such multi-level and well-ventilated complexes go beyond what we usually attribute to these early civilizations. Some researchers suggest that these underground cities may have been part of an ancient global network of shelters or even underground observatories, used to study the starry sky in conditions protected from external influences. The legends and folklore of Cappadocia, although they do not directly mention the construction of such cities, tell about underground creatures and worlds, which may be an echo of the ancient memory of life underground. The very geology of Cappadocia, with its soft volcanic rocks, contributed to the creation of these shelters. But even if the breed is soft, the volume and complexity of the work requires unprecedented organization of work, engineering knowledge, and the ability to plan multi-level structures with life support systems. The underground cities of Cappadocia are a unique monument of human survival and adaptation, but at the same time they continue to whisper about forgotten catastrophes and unknown technologies that allowed ancient builders to create entire worlds underground, challenging our understanding of the possibilities of antediluvian civilizations. Their mystery remains one of the deepest prompting researchers to search for answers in the earth itself and in ancient myths. The Great Pyramid of Giza, architectural perfection and unsolved technologies. On the Giza Plateau in Egypt stands one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, the only one that has survived to this day, the Great Pyramid of Cheops, Khufu. Officially, it dates from about 2580-2560 BC and is considered the tomb of Pharaoh Khufu from the IV dynasty. Towering at almost 147 meters, originally, it was the tallest structure in the world for more than 3,800 years. Built from approximately 2.3 million stone blocks, weighing about 6 million tons in total, this pyramid is the pinnacle of engineering, astronomical knowledge, and construction skills that still raise more questions than the answer. Challenging official Egyptology. Osnavnaya, the main and longest-standing mystery of the Great Pyramid of Giza, is the construction methods and tools used. How did the ancient Egyptians, with only copper and stone tools and human strength, manage to mine, transport, and lift millions of limestone and granite blocks, some of which weigh from 2.5 to 80 tons, granite blocks in the king's chamber. To such a colossal height, limestone blocks were quarried on the Giza Plateau. But the granites for the inner chambers came from Aswan, more than 800 kilometers south on the Nile. The traditional version suggests that the blocks were moved on wooden sleds and ice rinks, dragged by a huge number of workers along the embankment ramps, and then installed in place. However, calculations show that such an operation would have required millions of workers, which is not supported by archaeological data on the population of Egypt at that time. In addition, creating a ramp of sufficient size to lift such blocks would require more material than the pyramid itself, and its dismantling would be a colossal task, traces of which are also not found. Alternative theories about spiral ramps inside the pyramid or external ramps that are constantly being completed also face serious logistical and engineering problems. Further, the striking accuracy of block fitting raises questions. In some places, especially in the inner chambers and passageways, the blocks are fitted so tightly that it is impossible to put even a piece of paper between them. This was achieved without the use of cement or mortar, which indicates the incredible skill and precision of stone processing. How was it possible to achieve such filigree precision when working with hard granite, using only primitive copper chisels and stone hammers? Copper is too soft to handle granite effectively. This suggests the possibility of using harder materials that we haven't discovered yet, or cutting and grinding techniques that we don't know yet. Some proponents of alternative theories suggest the use of ultrasonic vibrations for softening stone, high-speed drilling, or even some form of chemical treatment that allowed you to get perfectly smooth surfaces. Astronomical and geodetic accuracy. The Great Pyramid is also striking. Its faces are almost perfectly oriented to the cardinal directions, with an error of less than 0.05 degrees, and its location on the planet corresponds to the central point of the Earth's land. It is crossed by the 30th parallel. In addition, there are many theories about the mathematical and geometric proportions of the pyramid, which are supposed to reflect constants such as pi, p, and the golden ratio, ph. For example, the ratio of the perimeter of the base to double the height of the pyramid gives a very close approximation to p. These ratios, if intended, indicate a deep knowledge of mathematics and geometry that is not thought to have been available to the Egyptians of that era to such an extent. This raises the question of whether the pyramid builders had knowledge derived from older and more advanced civilizations, or even from external sources. Some alternative theories link the construction of the pyramid to an antediluvian civilization that existed before a global cataclysm, such as the flood, which had advanced knowledge and technology, or with extraterrestrial civilizations that could have directly influenced the ancient Egyptians, passing them technology and knowledge. Egyptian texts and myths abound with references to gods who came from heaven and taught people wisdom and construction. The pyramid may have served not only as a tomb, but also as an energy generator, lighthouse, observatory, or even a repository of ancient knowledge designed to preserve information for millennia. Recent studies using muon tomography have revealed previously unknown voids inside the pyramid, which only adds to the mystery and indicates that we have not yet solved all its secrets. The Great Pyramid of Giza, with its terrifying size, incredible precision, and inexplicable features, continues to be a silent witness to lost knowledge and technology, challenging our understanding of the possibilities of antediluvian civilizations and forcing us to rethink the entire history of mankind. Deep sea city of Yonaguni, Atlantis of the East, and evidence of disaster. Returning to the underwater anomalies, in addition to the famous Yonaguni monument near the Japanese Ryukyu Islands, in the same region where the mysterious underwater complex is hidden, there is another area of underwater mysteries, sometimes combined under the general name Deep Sea City of Ionagut or Atlantis of the East. The name is used to describe not only the main structure of Yonaguni Island, Wanaguni, but also other suspicious underwater formations found in nearby areas that some researchers believe may have been part of a vast sunken metropolis or network of settlements. These structures, located at depths of 5 to 40 meters, include not only giant terraces and monoliths, but also alleged roads, step structures, towers, and even similar buildings, which further strengthens the hypothesis of man-made origin. The main intrigue surrounding the deep-sea city of Yonaguni is the scale and variety of alleged man-made elements, which, according to proponents, cannot be explained solely by natural processes. In addition to the already mentioned straight faces and angles of the main monument, other anomalies were recorded in this region. For example, formations resembling wide, perfectly flat roads or square, extending for hundreds of meters were found. There are also structures that are interpreted as huge walls or towers carved out of the rock. Some divers and researchers have reported the presence of strange protrusions and depressions that may be elements of ancient staircases, corridors, or even living quarters, although their condition has been greatly altered by erosion and marine life. There are also sightings of giant staircases, or steps, that appear to be carved into the rock and lead down into the depths, as well as structures that are perceived as giant statues or stone heads that resemble human or animal features, although their nature is even more controversial. The variety and consistency of these forms, their repetition and orientation to the cardinal directions, in the case of the main monument, are key arguments in favor of their artificial origin. If these were only natural formations, their shapes would be much more chaotic and less symmetrical. However, here we see elements that look like engineering solutions. For example, perfect horizontal surfaces, which is difficult to explain only by erosion, which usually creates more uneven shapes. Depressions resembling quarry workings were also found, where construction materials for other parts of the city may have been extracted. At some sites, there seems to be evidence that massive blocks have been detached from the main rock and moved, requiring sophisticated tools and organized labor. If these structures are indeed the remains of a sunken city, then their age, based on geological data on sea level rise after the last ice age, is at least 8,000 to 10,000 years, and possibly up to 12,000 years. This is a period that is traditionally considered the era of hunter-gatherers who do not have the technology to create such monumental structures. Therefore, the deep-sea city of Yonaguni, if it is man-made, is a direct proof of the existence of a highly developed antediluvian civilization in the Pacific Ocean. This civilization may have possessed knowledge and technology that surpassed the primitive ones, but was destroyed by a global cataclysm, such as a sharp rise in sea level, a mega tsunami caused by an earthquake or an asteroid impact, or a large-scale shift of tectonic plates. The legends of the Ryukyu Islands associated with Niraikanai, the sunken land or underwater world where ancestors came from, or where souls go, take on a new meaning in the context of these underwater discoveries. These myths may not just be folklore, but ancient memories of real events, the existence of a thriving civilization that was swallowed up by the ocean. Perhaps this civilization had a connection with other ancient cultures of the Pacific region, and the discovery of Yonaguni may be the key to solving the hypothetical continent of Mu or Lemuria, about which many esoteric teachings speak. The nature of the disaster that led to the flooding of these structures is also the subject of active speculation. Seismic activity in this region is very high, and large earthquakes with subsequent tsunamis could cause sudden land subsidence. The deep-sea city of Yonaguni continues to be one of the most controversial and fascinating archaeological sites. It challenges not only our chronology, but also our understanding of the possibilities of ancient civilizations, offering a glimpse into the deep past, where there may have been highly developed societies whose achievements and tragedies still whisper to us from under the waters of the ocean. Delving into these mysteries is not only a scientific exploration, but also a kind of journey into forgotten chapters of human history that can completely change the way we think about our past. Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa, the mystery of the vanished Indus Valley civilization. In the fertile Indus River Valley of what is now Pakistan and India, one of the greatest and least studied ancient civilizations flourished. The Hindu civilization, or Harappan civilization, which existed from about 2500 to 1900 BC. Its major cities such as Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa are striking examples of the highest levels of urban planning, engineering skills, and social organization that far surpassed many contemporary cultures. However, despite their greatness, this civilization mysteriously disappeared, leaving behind only ruins full of unsolved mysteries. One of the most striking features of Mohenjo-Daro is its incredibly elaborate urban layout. The city was built on a strict rectangular grid, with wide streets intersecting at right angles and clearly divided districts. The houses were built of standardized baked bricks, an engineering achievement in itself for the time, since they required a large amount of fuel and temperature control, and most of them had their own bathrooms with toilets and a sophisticated sewer system for the time, which led sewage to large sewers under the streets. The Mohenjo-Daro sewer system was one of the most developed in the ancient world, surpassing even many systems that existed in Europe thousands of years later. In addition, the city had impressive public structures, such as the Great Bath, a huge public pool lined with waterproof bitumen, and the Great Granary, which demonstrated the ability to build on a large scale and centrally manage resources. However, despite these signs of high civilization, Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa are surrounded by many mysteries. One of the most intriguing is the lack of obvious signs of the ruling elite or monumental temples. Unlike in Mesopotamia or Egypt, where power was concentrated in the hands of god-kings and manifested in giant palaces and temples, in the cities of the Indus civilization, not a single royal palace, not a single huge temple, or even sculptures depicting rulers were found. This suggests an entirely different type of social structure, perhaps more egalitarian, governed by some sort of council or college of priests. Another, even deeper mystery is the reason for the disappearance of the Indian civilization. Around 1900 BC, when it was at its peak, the cities began to decline and then were finally abandoned. There are several hypotheses, but none of them provides a complete and exhaustive explanation. Changing the course of the Indus River. Perhaps the river that was the source of life for civilization changed its course, depriving cities of water and making agriculture impossible. Climate change, a period of droughts possibly caused by changes in monsoon rains, could lead to food shortages and a mass exodus. Nashestia Aryan invasions. Traditional theory attributed the decline to the invasion of nomadic Indo-Aryans, but archaeological evidence does not support large-scale wars or mass destruction. Epidemics. Large concentrations of people in cities could lead to outbreaks of deadly diseases. However, some proponents of alternative theories put forward much more dramatic explanations, especially regarding Mohenjo-Daro. In some areas of the city, human remains were found lying directly on the streets, indicating a sudden death that is not related to organized burials. Moreover, in some parts of the city, melted pieces of clay and sand were found, which, as stated, could be the result of exposure to extremely high temperatures, possibly a nuclear explosion or some powerful thermal weapon. This evidence, although disputed by most scientists who attribute it to natural processes, such as lightning, fires, or industrial waste, has given rise to hypotheses about an ancient nuclear conflict or the use of an unknown divine weapon described in the Hindu Vedas as Brahmastra. This links the Indian civilization to the concept of antediluvian, highly developed civilizations that could have possessed destructive technologies. Another intriguing detail is the written language of the Indus civilization. Thousands of inscriptions on seals and tablets have been found, but so far this writing remains undeciphered, which makes it difficult to understand their history, religion, and culture. Its uniqueness and lack of obvious connections with other known ancient languages adds to the mystery of the vanished civilization. Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa, with their advanced engineering, mysterious disappearance, and possible traces of incredible catastrophes, continue to be silent witnesses to ancient mysteries, hinting that the history of mankind is much more complex and dramatic than is generally accepted in official science. This is a kind of warning from the past about the fragility of even the most advanced civilizations. Nazca giant geoglyphs and the mystery of their creators. In the arid deserts of southern Peru on the Nazca Plateau, there are some of the most grandiose and mysterious works of ancient art, the Nazca lines. These are colossal geoglyphs carved into the ground between 500 BC and 500 AD by the Nazca civilization. They depict animal figures, birds, monkeys, lizards, fish, dogs, hummingbirds, geometric patterns, spirals, trapezoids, triangles, and straight lines that stretch for kilometers. These drawings are so huge that they cannot be fully viewed from the ground. Their true scale and shape are only visible from the air, which raises one of the most pressing questions. For whom and how were these giant images created if their creators could not see them? The main mystery of Nazca lines is their creation methods and purpose. The lines were made by removing dark oxidized rocks from the desert surface, exposing the lighter ground beneath them. At the same time, the lines themselves are relatively shallow, only about 10-30 centimeters. Despite their simplicity, they are surprisingly resistant to erosion due to the dry climate, the almost complete absence of rain and wind, and the chemical composition of the soil, which forms a protective layer. Traditional archaeology suggests that the lines were created using simple tools, wooden stakes, ropes to measure distances and directions, and possibly scaled models that were then transferred to a large size. According to this version, the Nazca people could use observation points on nearby hills or even on high wooden platforms to monitor the accuracy of the drawings. However, this hypothesis faces serious questions. Some figures, such as spider or monkey, are made with amazing accuracy and proportions, and some lines are so long and straight that their creation without optical instruments or very accurate geodetic methods is extremely difficult. For example, lines passing through hills retain their straightness, which requires complex leveling. How could the ancient people, who did not have knowledge of geometry and cartography at such a level, create such large-scale and accurate images? In addition to the creation methods, there is a question about the assignment of Nazca lines. There are several leading theories. Astronomical calendar. One of the most popular hypotheses, proposed by Maria Reich, suggests that some lines and figures served as a giant astronomical calendar or observatory. They could be focused on the sunrise and sunset points of the sun, moon, and certain stars, indicating important dates in the agricultural cycle, or for predicting eclipses. However, only a small part of the lines show such a direct astronomical correlation, and most of them do not have an obvious connection with celestial bodies. Water cults. Since the Nazca Desert is one of the driest regions on the planet, another theory suggests that the lines were associated with water cults and the search for underground water sources. Some of the lines may indicate the location of aquifers or may have been part of rain-calling rituals. Ritual paths. The lines may have been ritual paths that pilgrims or priests followed during ceremonies, and the animal figures may have had totemic or symbolic meaning associated with deities or spirits. Messages to the gods. Since the lines are only visible from a height, many researchers suggest that they were created as messages to deities living in the heavens or as landing strips for their arrival, to use paleocontact terminology. It is the latter hypothesis, related to paleocontact and extraterrestrial intervention, that causes the greatest controversy. Proponents of this theory, such as Erich von Däniken, argue that the Nazca lines served as giant landing strips for spacecraft or were created using technologies obtained from extraterrestrial civilizations. The idea that ancient people could only see the drawings from the air has led to speculation that someone from the sky must have observed the process of creating them or be their final destination. This theory, although not supported by mainstream science, continues to excite minds and attract many enthusiasts. Some figures, such as the cosmonaut or human owls, seem too unusual for primitive images. Moreover, some geoglyphs, especially trapezoids and straight lines, show the effect of trampled or compacted areas, which suggests that these zones are often used. This raises questions about whether these zones may have served some kind of ritual movement or, as proponents of alternative theories suggest, for some kind of energy or technological purpose. The lack of any written language that could explain the purpose of the lines only adds to the mystery. The Nazca lines etched on the face of the earth remain one of the most striking and inexplicable archaeological phenomena, evidence of an incredible scale and mysterious purpose, perhaps hinting at the connection of ancient people with space or the existence of forgotten technologies that allowed them to leave such monumental and still not fully understood messages. Easter Island and Moai stone giants and the mystery of their movement. In the secluded expanse of the Pacific Ocean, more than 3,700 kilometers off the coast of Chile, lies a small, isolated piece of land known as Easter Island, or Rapa Nui. This island is one of the most mysterious places on the planet, primarily due to its famous stone statues known as moai. More than 1,000 of these monumental monoliths depicting stylized human figures with disproportionately large heads, were carved by the ancient Rapa Nui people from soft volcanic tuff between 1250 and 1500 AD. Their average height is about 4 meters and their weight is more than 12 tons. But some giants reach 20 meters in height and weigh more than 80 tons. Most moai were found either in the Rano Rara Kukwari, where they were carved, or on the way to the ceremonial platforms, ahu, on which they were supposed to stand. It is the process of transporting and installing these colossi that is the greatest mystery of Easter Island, which has not yet received a final and generally accepted solution. The main mystery of Moai lies in the methods by which these multi-ton statues were moved tens of kilometers from the quarry to their installation sites. Easter Island is an area with limited natural resources. There are practically no large trees that could be used for making rollers or levers, and there are no large animals for pulling power. Traditional archaeological theories suggest that the statues were moved using a combination of ropes, wooden sleds, ramps, and walking techniques. According to these versions, hundreds or thousands of people, using ropes, could swing the statue from side to side, gradually moving it along the ground or drag it on a wooden sled. However, experiments to recreate these methods have shown them to be extremely laborious, slow, and at high risk of breaking statues. Even a small moai required dozens or hundreds of people to move, and thousands for the largest statues, which seems unrealistic for the limited population of the island. In addition, moving the statues over rough terrain, as well as lifting them to high ceremonial platforms, ahus, is an even more difficult task. Beyond transportation, the process of installing the moai on ahu remains mysterious. Many statues, especially those that were installed on platforms, had on their heads the so-called pukao cylindrical caps made of red slag, weighing up to 10 tons. How were these pukao lifted and installed to a height of up to 10 meters? Traditional explanations for the use of earthen ramps face serious engineering challenges, especially when working with such fragile materials and at such a height. The cultural collapse of Rapa Nui society is also closely linked to the moai mystery. Consider that the process of carving and moving these giants led to massive deforestation on the island, which in turn caused soil erosion, agricultural decline, and as a result, fierce wars between clans. As a result of these conflicts, most of the moai were overturned and their construction stopped. This theory, however, does not fully explain how such a highly organized society with monumental building skills could have allowed such an ecological catastrophe to occur, and why it did not use more efficient methods of displacement if they were available. Alternative theories, trying to explain the inexplicable, put forward hypotheses about the use of unknown technologies or the intervention of external forces. Some researchers suggest that the ancient Rapa Nui people or their predecessors may have had knowledge of levitation, using sound waves or other forms of energy to reduce the weight of stones and move them without physical labor. These ideas, while seemingly fanciful, attempt to explain the apparent ease with which the statues were carved and presumably moved. Local Rapa Nui legends speak of mana, a supernatural power possessed by priests and chieftains, which allowed them to move stones with the power of thought. Some myths also mention ariki, ancient rulers who may have been descendants or representatives of an antediluvian race of giants with physical strength sufficient to move the moai. Proponents of paleocontact, as in the case of other megaliths, suggest that moai could have been created or moved using technologies obtained from extraterrestrial beings, or even by the aliens themselves, who used the island as a base or place for experiments. The isolated position of the island and the uniqueness of its culture reinforce this hypothesis. Interestingly, in addition to Easter Island itself, other parts of Polynesia also have megalithic structures and legends about the movement of stones by magic or an unknown force, which indicates the possible existence of a common, forgotten knowledge or technology that was spread throughout the Pacific region in ancient times. The moai, with their silent gazes directed inland, continue to stand as silent witnesses to lost knowledge, incredible efforts, and perhaps a forgotten history of humanity that is much deeper and more mysterious than we realize. They remind us of the fragility of civilizations and how even the greatest achievements can be wiped out. Daring Kuyu and Keimakli underground shelter mazes and their unknown builders. In the heart of Cappadocia, a region of central Turkey known for its magic chimneys and unique landscapes, hides some of the most impressive and mysterious architectural wonders of the ancient world. The underground cities of Derinkuyu and Kaymakli. These colossal, multi-level labyrinths, carved deep into soft volcanic rocks, go tens or even hundreds of meters underground. Officially, they are associated with early Christians who sought refuge from persecution, but the scale, engineering complexity, and some archaeological finds raise serious questions about their true age and purpose. Derinkuyu, the largest discovered underground city in Cappadocia, could house up to 20,000 people, as well as their livestock and supplies, at a depth of up to 85 meters. It consists of countless tunnels, chambers, living quarters, kitchens, wine cellars, stables, schools, chapels, and even burial sites. And the city was equipped with a sophisticated and efficient ventilation system consisting of more than 50 deep vertical shafts that provided fresh air circulation at all levels. The water supply system included wells that reached underground aquifers. Massive stone doors, millstones that could be rolled up, completely blocking the passageways and sealing the city off from the outside world, were used to protect against invasion. These doors, weighing up to half a ton, could only be closed from the inside. The main mystery of these underground cities lies in the colossal amount of earthworks and the engineering genius of their builders. How did the ancient people, without modern tools for digging in the rock, powerful lighting devices and exhaust air removal systems, were able to carve such huge and complex structures? The soft tuff that makes up the rock is relatively easy to process, but even so, the volume of rock extracted is estimated at millions of cubic meters. Where did all these landfills go? The lack of large-scale external dumps indicates that the soil may have been used for other purposes, perhaps for building on the surface, or removed in ways that we don't understand. Some researchers suggest that some of the excavated material may have been disposed of through natural cave systems, or an unknown method of melting or dissolving the stone was used. Questions also arise about the age of these structures. Although official history attributes their creation to early Christians of the Byzantine period, 4th to 10th century AD, archaeological finds such as Neolithic artifacts have been found in the deepest levels of Derinkuyu and other cities, indicate a much more ancient use of these places. Perhaps the original, deepest levels were dug by the Hittites or Phrygians, or even older, unknown civilizations. There are theories that these cities may have been part of a system of shelters created in response to global cataclysms, such as large volcanic eruptions, Cappadocia is a volcanic region, strong earthquakes, or even asteroid impacts that could cause people to go underground for a long time. If this is the case, then their creation could refer to Antediluvian times, when humanity was experiencing a period of survival after disasters. The purpose of underground cities is also a matter of debate. In addition to serving as a refugee from enemies and natural disasters, some researchers suggest that they may have served as ceremonial centers, places for initiations, secret gatherings, or even repositories of knowledge during global upheavals. Some underground levels may have been designed for specific purposes related to astronomy or spiritual practices, as they provided complete isolation from the outside world. The lack of windows and natural light, as well as the perfect acoustics in some cells, could create a unique atmosphere for meditation or rituals. Derinkuyu and Kaymakli, with their complex infrastructure and unfathomable scale, are not just shelters, but entire underground civilizations. They show a deep knowledge of geology, engineering, and architecture that would seem to have been significantly ahead of its eras. These cities challenge our ideas about the possibilities of ancient peoples and make us think, who were the first people to break through these giant mazes? What knowledge were they trying to preserve, or what were they trying to hide from by going so deep underground? The subterranean cities of Cappadocia are silent guardians of these questions, reminding us that the history of mankind is much richer and more complex than we can imagine, and that the unsolved mysteries of the antediluvian eras still await in the depths of the earth. Tombs in the rocks of petricarved wonders and lost Nabatean lore. In the desert canyons of modern-day Jordan is the ancient city of Petra, the capital of the Nabatean kingdom that flourished between the 4th century BC and the 1st century AD. Petra is world famous for its stunning structures carved right out of the pink sandstone cliffs. The most famous of them are Al-Kasna, Treasury, and Ed Dir, Monastery. These monumental facades, reaching tens of meters in height, are carved with incredible precision and detail. The Nabateans were skilled engineers who not only created impressive facades, but also developed a sophisticated water management system in an arid desert environment. However, despite their acknowledged genius, the scale and methods of creating these giant-hewn structures continue to raise questions, especially regarding earlier, less explored parts of the city. The main mystery of Petra lies in the methods of carving these colossal facades and interiors out of monolithic rock. The Nabateans are believed to have used iron chisels and hammers, working from top to bottom using scaffolding attached to the rock. This method required incredible accuracy, since any error at the upper levels would mean an irreparable defect that could not be corrected. How did they achieve such symmetry and detail? Especially puzzling are some of the interiors, which seem perfectly aligned and smooth, as if they were polished with modern tools. Creating huge cavities inside the rock, ensuring ventilation and stability of the structure, are tasks that require advanced knowledge in geology and structural mechanics. The lack of large-scale stone dumps around many tombs is also a mystery. Where did all this carved material go? This suggests that the waste may have been used for other purposes, or that the carving process was so efficient that it left a minimum of debris. In addition to the famous facades, there are simpler, but no less numerous carved tombs and dwellings scattered throughout the territory of Petra. Many of them look like unfinished or modified structures, which may indicate a long period of construction and possibly a change in builders or technologies. Some researchers suggest that older, more basic structures may have been created before the arrival of the Nabateans, possibly by an earlier civilization about which we know very little. This raises the question of the actual age of the oldest parts of Petra. Although most of the structures date back to the heyday of the Nabateans, there is archaeological evidence of settlements in the region long before them, possibly dating back to eras before known civilizations. The purpose of these structures is also controversial. Although Al-Khazne and Al-Dir are traditionally considered tombs or temples, their internal layout sometimes seems not quite appropriate for these purposes. For example, the interior of Al-Khazne. They are relatively simple and do not have the rich decorations expected from a royal tomb. This suggests that they may have been used not only for funerary rituals, but also for other, possibly secret or astronomical purposes. Some researchers suggest that Petra could be a major astronomical center, and the location of certain structures corresponded to the movement of celestial bodies. Vodное хозяйство. The Nabatean water industry is another engineering marvel. They created a complex network of canals, dams, and cisterns to collect and store rainwater, allowing the city to thrive in the arid desert. This demonstrates a deep understanding of hydraulics and the ability to manipulate natural resources on a scale that was astounding for its time. However, while their water supply system is impressive, it doesn't explain how they managed to carve such monumental structures into the rocks. The disappearance of the Nabateans as the dominant force also remains a mystery. After joining the Roman Empire in 106 AD, Petra gradually fell into disrepair and then was abandoned. Earthquakes, changing trade routes, and possibly depletion of water resources may have contributed to this. However, the exact reason for their withdrawal from the city, which was so impregnable and well defended, is still unclear. Petra, with its stone-carved wonders, silent facades, and mysterious history, continues to stand as a witness to a powerful but mysterious civilization, whose construction methods and the true purpose of many structures are still the subject of heated debate. It's a reminder that ancient cultures may have had knowledge and skills that we haven't fully understood yet. Newgrange, an ancient megalithic mound in astronomical accuracy. In the east of Ireland, in County Meath, there is one of the most impressive and ancient megalithic structures in Europe, Newgrange. This giant corridor tomb mound, part of the larger Brunaboyne complex, was built around 3200 BC, making it older than Stonehenge and the Egyptian pyramids. Newgrange is a massive earthen hill with a diameter of about 85 meters and a height of 13.5 meters, surrounded by a circle of 97 vertically placed stones. Inside the hill is a long passageway leading to a cruciform chamber built of huge, elaborately crafted stones, many of which are decorated with mysterious spiral, diamond-shaped, and zigzag patterns. The main mystery of Newgrange is its striking astronomical orientation. During the winter solstice around December 21st, a ray of the rising sun penetrates through a special opening above the entrance, called a light box, roof box, and illuminates the entire 19-meter passage, reaching the central chamber. This event lasts about 17 minutes, demonstrating the incredible accuracy of calculations and construction for prehistoric people. This feature indicates a deep astronomical knowledge of the builders, who apparently could predict and use the movement of celestial bodies for their ritual or calendar purposes. How could the ancient people, without accurate measuring instruments and knowledge of the sun's movement, have achieved such phenomenal accuracy, which has been preserved for thousands of years? This involves years of sky observation, careful recording, and passing on this knowledge from generation to generation. In addition to astronomical accuracy, the enormous amount of construction work raises questions. The construction of Newgrange required moving about 200,000 tons of stones and earth. Megaliths for the passage and chambers, some of which weigh up to 40 tons, were brought from places located several kilometers from the mound. For a prehistoric society that lacked advanced machinery and technology, this was a colossal task, requiring a huge amount of manpower and organization. The use of primitive methods, such as wooden rollers, travois, and hundreds or thousands of workers, seems to be the only explanation, but does not fully answer the question of how it was achieved with such precision. The stone blocks that form the roof of the passageway and chambers have grooves through which rainwater flows outwards, demonstrating a sophisticated drainage system and understanding of waterproofing. This fact indicates a high level of engineering skills among builders. Mysterious spiral patterns and petroglyphs, carved on the stones of Newgrange, also add to the mystery. Their meaning has not yet been deciphered. Perhaps they are symbols of the cycles of life and death, the movement of the sun and moon, or part of ancient mythology and cosmology. The lack of written language from that period makes their interpretation even more difficult. These patterns, carved on hard stone, require considerable effort and possibly the use of stronger tools than those attributed to prehistoric peoples. Some of the patterns resemble images found in other megalithic complexes around the world, which may indicate possible connections or a common source of ancient knowledge. The purpose of Newgrange, although considered a tomb, may have been much broader. Its astronomical orientation and complex structure suggest that it could have been not only a necropolis, but also a temple for worshiping the sun, a place for performing rituals related to fertility, rebirth, and the change of seasons. It may have served as a kind of time machine or calendar that allowed ancient priests to predict important astronomical events and mark the time for agriculture. Its construction required the unification of a large number of people under centralized leadership, which indicates a complex social structure of society which, as it is believed, has not yet reached the level of civilization. Newgrange, with its monumental size, precise astronomical orientation, and mysterious patterns, is a silent witness to the incredible achievements of prehistoric humans. It challenges our understanding of the primitiveness of early societies and makes us wonder what knowledge and abilities might have been lost in the depths of thousands of years. This ancient mound continues to serve as a reminder that even without modern technologies, our ancestors were able to build structures that still amaze the imagination and conceal unsolved secrets of the antediluvian eras. Geoglyphs of Uruguay, ancient markers and hidden meanings. In the little-known areas of Uruguay, unlike the famous Nazca lines, there are their own, less well-known, but no less mysterious geoglyphs. These monumental earth drawings, discovered in various regions of the country, are huge geometric shapes, straight lines, circles, and complex patterns carved into the landscape. The exact age and origin of these geoglyphs are still the subject of intense research and speculation, but their existence points to the existence of complex, organized societies in pre-Columbian America, whose knowledge and goals went beyond ordinary understanding. These structures, like their more well-known counterparts in Peru, become completely distinguishable only from a height, which immediately raises the question of how they were created and for whom they were intended. The main mystery of Uruguayan geoglyphs lies in their unknown origin and purpose. Unlike the Nazca, which are associated with a particular culture, Uruguay's geoglyphs are often found in areas where there is no clear archaeological evidence of a major settled civilization capable of such large-scale engineering projects. This makes dating and attribution difficult. Their creation, as in the case of other geoglyphs, most likely involved removing the upper layer of soil or rocks to expose the contrasting lower layer. However, because many of them are located in less arid regions compared to the Nazca Desert, their preservation is poorer and they are more susceptible to erosion, making them more difficult to detect and study. Some of the Uruguayan geoglyphs are astounding in size, reaching hundreds of meters in length. Among them, huge circles stand out, which may have served for astronomical observations or were associated with calendar cycles, like Stonehenge. Straight lines that cross the landscape may indicate animal migration routes, water sources, or territory boundaries. But their perfect straightness over long distances raises questions about how to plot them without using modern geodetic instruments. Other geoglyphs have more abstract or symbolic forms, the meaning of which is completely lost. The lack of clear evidence of advanced tools or technologies from the alleged creators of these drawings makes you think, how could ancient peoples, who may have been at the hunter-gatherer or early agricultural stage, have planned and implemented such large-scale projects? This requires a high level of organization, abstract thinking, and the ability to visualize large forms that can only be seen from a height. Versions related to the use of observation points at higher elevations or the use of simple measurement techniques seem insufficient to explain the accuracy and scale of some of the drawings. Alternative theories, as in the case of Nazca, often involve ideas about communication with extraterrestrial civilizations or about the existence of antediluvian, highly developed cultures. If these geoglyphs are indeed of very ancient origin, predating the known civilizations of the region, then their existence may indicate forgotten technologies or that these lands were inhabited by societies whose knowledge and achievements were wiped off the face of the earth. Perhaps these figures were some kind of maps for navigation, energy tags, or messages addressed to the sky. Some researchers also suggest that the Uruguayan geoglyphs may have been part of a larger global network of ancient markers and symbols, indicating possible links between antediluvian civilizations around the world. These geoglyphs, while less well-known than their Peruvian counterparts, are yet another silent testament to our planet's mysterious past, challenging our understanding of the capabilities of ancient peoples and their connections to the world around them. They continue to keep their secrets under the cover of the earth, waiting for further research and perhaps revolutionary discoveries that could change our understanding of human history. The underwater ruins of Bimini Atlantis in the Caribbean and the mystery of the road. В кристально чистых водах у острова Bimini, one of the most intriguing underwater archaeological mysteries, known as the Bimini Road or Bimini Wall, is hidden in the crystal-clear waters off Bimini Island in the Bahamas, east of the coast of Florida, Daroga Bimini. Ili Stena Bimini, discovered in 1968, this unusual formation consists of long rows of massive, rectangular or polygonal limestone blocks laid out in such a way that it gives the impression of an ancient road, wall, or harbor. Located at a depth of only 5 to 10 meters, this structure is about 800 meters long and looks so regular and orderly that many are convinced of its artificial origin, linking it with the legendary Atlantis. The main mystery of the Bimini Road is the dispute about its nature, whether it is man-made or a natural geological formation. Academic geologists are overwhelmingly inclined to the version of its natural origin. They claim that these are natural beach rock, which are formed from sand and seashells under the influence of water and cemented with calcium carbonate. These rocks tend to crack into rectangular or polygonal blocks due to weathering and seismic activity and then move and line up under the influence of currents and waves. Geologists point out that the blocks have no obvious tool marks, and their arrangement, while seemingly ordered, can be explained by natural factors, such as the wave energy that aligns the debris. However, supporters of the man-made origin of the Bimini Road make convincing arguments in favor of the fact that these are the remains of an ancient structure created by man. They point out the extraordinary regularity and parallelism of the rows of blocks that look like a carefully laid pavement or foundation. Some blocks seem to fit perfectly together, and in some places blocks were found that, according to the researchers, could have been specially hewn and moved. The presence of two parallel walls or roads is noted, which is more difficult to explain by a random natural process. In addition, some blocks have unusual depressions or holes that may be traces of ancient fasteners or structural elements. If the Bimini Road is really a man-made structure, then its age must be very significant. According to geological data on sea level rise since the last ice age, this area has been on land for at least 10,000 years, 12,000 years ago. This means that if the structure is artificial, it was built in an era when humanity, as it is believed, did not yet have the technology for monumental construction and did not have developed marine civilizations. This directly indicates the existence of a highly developed antediluvian civilization that was absorbed by the ocean. This is why the Bimini Road is so often associated with the legend of Atlantis, the lost continent or city described by Plato. If Atlantis really existed in the Caribbean, the Bimini Road could have been part of its infrastructure, perhaps a harbor, a breakwater, the foundation of a temple, or even a sacred road leading to the main city. The connection to Edgar Cayce, an American mystic and clairvoyant, also adds to the intrigue. In his readings, Cayce predicted that the remains of Atlantis would be found at Bimini in 1968, which coincided with the discovery of the road. While this isn't scientific proof, it adds a mystical aura to the place. Further research in the Bimini area revealed the presence of other anomalous underwater structures, including circular formations and deeper walls that further fuel the sunken city hypothesis. Whether the Bimini Road is a natural wonder or evidence of a forgotten civilization, it continues to be one of the most attractive and mysterious underwater sites. It challenges our understanding of the ancient world and makes us think about the scale of geological changes, as well as the possibility of antediluvian societies whose traces are hidden under the ocean water column, waiting to be fully discovered and recognized. Dolmens of the Caucasus, stone houses of giants, and their mysterious properties. Thousands of ancient megalithic structures, known as dolmens, are scattered across the vast expanses of the Caucasus, from the Black Sea coast to the foothills of the main Caucasus range dolmeni. These mysterious stone houses, built from several massive slabs, sometimes reaching a weight of tens of tons, and covered with a heavy lid on top, date from about the 3-2 millennia BC, which makes them the same age as the Egyptian pyramids. The dolmens of the Caucasus are one of the most numerous and least studied megalith complexes in the world. Their architecture, which resembles fancy birdhouses or stone boxes with a round hole in the facade, raises many questions about who built them, why, and with what technologies. The main mystery of the Caucasian dolmens is their construction methods. How could the ancient people, without advanced metallurgy and heavy machinery, cut, move, and perfectly fit huge stone slabs to each other? Many dolmens consist of 5 or 6 slabs, with the side walls and roof weighing tens of tons each. On some dolmens, there are traces of processing, which is difficult to explain using primitive tools. For example, the internal surfaces of some slabs look polished, and the entrance holes are cut with amazing geometric accuracy. These holes can be round, oval, or even have a complex keyhole shape, which requires high-precision cutting tools. How did these massive slabs move for tens or hundreds of meters, and then rise and stack with such precision as to form tight joints without using a binding solution? Traditional explanations involving the use of wooden levers, ramps, and large amounts of manpower are not always convincing, especially given the number and weight of some dolmens. Another important mystery is the purpose of dolmens. Although they are often referred to as tombs or burial chambers, because human remains and artifacts have been found in some of them, this does not explain all their features. Many dolmens are empty, and their complex construction seems redundant for a simple funerary function. The round opening in the facade plate, directed strictly to the south, is of particular interest. Some researchers suggest that the dolmens may have served as astronomical observatories focused on solstices or equinoxes, similar to Newgrange. It is possible that the hole was used to observe certain celestial bodies or to catch the sun's rays on certain days, which had ritual or calendar significance for ancient societies. Mystical and energetic properties of dolmens, they are also actively researched and discussed. Many people who visit dolmens report unusual sensations such as a surge of energy, clarity of thought, meditative states, or even a change in the readings of devices such as Geiger counters or compasses. This has given rise to hypotheses that dolmens may have been some kind of energy resonators capable of generating or focusing the Earth's natural energies, perhaps for purposes of healing, meditation, or communication with invisible worlds. Some attribute these properties to quartz, which is present in the granite and sandstone that make up the dolmens. Local traditions in the Caucasus speak of dwarf houses or giant dwellings. Adyghe legends say that dolmens were built by dwarfs who could move stones with magic or by giants with incredible strength. These myths reflect the deep amazement of the ancient inhabitants before structures that they could not attribute to ordinary human efforts. Perhaps these legends are distorted memories of an antediluvian civilization that possessed technologies or physical abilities unknown to us and used dolmens for purposes that we cannot yet fully understand. Dolmens of the Caucasus, with their silent grandeur and mysterious properties, continue to keep their secrets in the depths of forests and mountains, reminding us of the existence of ancient knowledge and technologies that still elude our understanding, challenging the official history of mankind. The underwater city of Dwarka legends and archaeological finds. On the west coast of India, in the waters of the Arabian Sea, lies one of the most fascinating underwater mysteries that could prove the existence of the legendary city of Dwarka. According to ancient Hindu texts, such as the Mahabharata and Puranas, Dwarka was a magnificent city built by the god Krishna on the shore of the ocean. Legends describe it as a thriving metropolis with massive walls, palaces, temples decorated with gold and precious stones, and a developed infrastructure. However, after the departure of Krishna, according to legend, the city was swallowed up by the sea and sank. For a long time, Dwarka was considered only a myth, part of a religious epic, but since the early 1980s, underwater archaeological research in the area has begun to uncover structures that strikingly match the descriptions of the legendary city. The main secret of the underwater Dwarka is the evidence of its artificial origin and its connection with legends. In the 1980s, a team of Indian archaeologists, led by S.R. Rao, discovered at a depth of about 40 meters off the coast of Dwarka the remains of large-scale structures, including huge stone walls, building foundations, rectangular blocks, and massive columns. These finds have regular geometric shapes, right angles, and a complex layout that is difficult to explain by natural geological processes. Among the artifacts found were pottery, anchors, and even copper-bronze objects that indicate human activity. The most controversial aspect is the dating of these finds. Some artifacts, such as pottery, have been dated to around 1500 BC. However, a number of researchers, based on geological data on sea level rise and the specifics of the discovered structures, suggest that the deepest and oldest layers of the underwater city could have been built much earlier, perhaps up to 7,500 years ago, which corresponds to a geological period when sea level was much lower. If this is the case, then the underwater Dwarka is not just an ancient port, but evidence of the existence of a highly developed antediluvian civilization that flourished in the Indian Ocean thousands of years before the appearance of known civilizations. Such a discovery would completely change our understanding of ancient history and the spread of advanced societies. The scale and complexity of underwater structures raise questions about the technology of ancient builders. How were these massive walls and foundations built underwater or on the shore, which then went underwater? What tools were used to process and move such huge stones? If the city was flooded suddenly, it could be the result of a powerful tsunami caused by an earthquake or a volcanic eruption, which also corresponds to numerous myths about global disasters. Svyaz Dwarka's association with Hindu mythology, especially Krishna, adds a mystical element. In the text of the Mahabharata, it is described as Dwarka. It was swallowed up by the sea after Krishna's death. Perhaps these myths are not just fiction, but distorted memories of a real, grandiose city that really disappeared under the waves. If the archaeological evidence is finally confirmed and linked to the legends, then Dwarka may become one of the most convincing proofs that ancient myths contain the seeds of historical truth, and antediluvian civilizations may have reached an amazing level of development before being wiped off the face of the earth. Research on the underwater dwarf continues, and each new find adds weight to the hypothesis of its artificial origin and incredible antiquity. This underwater city is not just an archaeological site, it is a kind of time capsule containing the secrets of lost knowledge and technologies, as well as evidence of global cataclysms that could have shaped the history of our planet, leaving behind only silent, hidden traces underwater. Costa Rica's stone spheres, perfect circles and an unknown destination. In the southwest of Costa Rica, in the delta of the Diquis Riverón, on the island of Cano, hundreds of mysterious stone spheres are scattered. These perfectly round objects, carved from granite or gabbro, range in size from a few centimeters to more than 2 meters in diameter, with the largest weighing up to 16 tons. Discovered in the 1930s while clearing the jungle for banana plantations, these spheres date from between 200 BC and 800 AD and are attributed to the now extinct Diquis culture. However, their perfect shape, vast numbers, and hitherto unknown purpose make them one of the most intriguing archaeological mysteries in Central America. The main secret of stone spheres is the phenomenal precision of their manufacture. How did the ancient peoples, without iron tools, lasers, or modern grinders, manage to give stones such a perfect spherical shape? Studies show that the deviation from the ideal sphere in some samples is less than 1 millimeter per meter of diameter. This is a level of accuracy that is difficult to achieve even with modern technology. Traditional theories suggest that the spheres were created by cutting stones with other, harder stones and then grinding them with sand and water. However, this process would be incredibly time-consuming and require thousands of hours of work per scope, especially for large instances. The lack of obvious traces of percussion instruments on the surface of the spheres also raises questions. Their smooth, almost polished surface seems to be the result of very fine and long-term processing. Another mystery is related to the purpose of these spheres. What were they created for? Official archaeology does not give a definite answer. Among popular hypotheses, perhaps the spheres were used as symbols of wealth or social status of leaders and elites, located in front of their homes or in meeting places. Some researchers suggest that the spheres may have been used to track the movement of celestial bodies, marking specific dates or astronomical events such as solstices or equinoxes. Their locations could correspond to star charts or lines of power. Perhaps the spheres were used to navigate through dense jungles or along rivers, marking paths or important places. It is most likely that they had a deep religious or spiritual significance associated with the beliefs of the Diquis people, although the specific function remains unknown. Also mysterious is the location of the spheres. Many of them were found in groups forming geometric patterns, lines, triangles, or circles. Some of these lines point to certain astronomical points or other archaeological sites, which may indicate a more complex planning system than it seems. After the discovery, many spheres were moved from their original locations by bulldozers, making it difficult to study their original location and context. Alternative theories often link the stone spheres to lost knowledge or the intervention of extraterrestrial civilizations. Some proponents of these ideas suggest that the perfect spherical shape may indicate the use of technologies that have been lost, or the help of more advanced beings who could pass on knowledge about the precise processing of stone. In this context, stories about gods descending from the heavens or ancient giants who could throw huge stones are sometimes mentioned, which may be an echo of ancient memories of unfathomable events or technologies. The legends of the indigenous peoples of Costa Rica do not give direct answers to the question of the origin of the spheres, but mention thunder creators who could throw huge stones or other mystical creatures that may be echoes of ancient memories of incomprehensible events or technologies. The stone spheres of Costa Rica continue to be silent witnesses of ancient wisdom and technical prowess that still amazes and challenges our understanding of the capabilities of the ancient civilizations of pre-Columbian America. Sacsayhuamán, the megalithic walls of Cusco, and the inexplicable fitting of stones. Above the capital of the Inca Empire, Cusco in Peru, stands the majestic Sacsayhuamán complex. Consisting of huge stone walls constructed from massive polygonal blocks, this cyclopean structure is one of the most impressive examples of ancient megalithic architecture in South America. Officially, Sacsayhuamán is attributed to the Incas and dates back to about the 15th century. But the scale and precision of stone processing make many researchers, including supporters of alternative theories, suggest that it could have been built by a much older civilization, and the Incas only used or completed existing structures. The main mystery of Sacsayhuamán is the amazing accuracy of fitting giant stone blocks. The walls are built of limestone, with each block having a unique, irregular shape, but they are so tightly fitted to each other that it is impossible to put even a knife blade between them. This is achieved without using any mortar or cement. Some of these blocks reach colossal dimensions, up to 9 meters in height and weighing more than 125 tons. Moving and accurately positioning such massive, irregularly shaped stones and then fitting them perfectly is an engineering challenge that still remains inexplicable for 15th century technology. The Incas are believed to have used bronze tools and thousands of workers to move stones on ramps. However, the bronze is too soft to effectively process stone of this hardness, and the complex polygonal design of the walls would make the use of ramps extremely difficult, since each block would require an individual approach. Many of the Sacsayhuamán blocks show no obvious tool marks, suggesting some unknown processing method. The surfaces of the stones look as if they were softened or molded, and then they hardened again. This gives rise to hypotheses about the use of high-temperature influences, sound vibrations, or even unknown chemical processes that would allow the stone to be shaped with incredible accuracy. Some researchers also point out the presence of strange holes and grooves on the surface of the stones, which could be part of a fastening system designed to move or lift blocks using unknown mechanisms. The appointment of Sacsayhuamán is also a matter of debate. Officially, it is considered a fortress that defended Cusco. Its location on a hill overlooking the city and its massive, multi-tiered structure really give the impression of an impregnable defensive structure. However, some researchers suggest that its true purpose could be different. Perhaps it was a ceremonial center, a temple of the sun, or even an observatory. Some lines and projections on the walls may have an astronomical orientation, indicating important events such as solstices or equinoxes. Another mystery is the Inca attitude to these megaliths. Although the Incas were outstanding builders, many researchers have noted differences in style and scale between the classic Inca masonry, which, although accurate, uses much smaller blocks and has a more regular shape, and the cyclopean walls of Sacsayhuamán. This gave rise to the theory that Sacsayhuamán may have been built by a much older civilization, possibly an antediluvian one that predated the Incas and had more advanced construction techniques. The Incas, in this case, could only complete or restore existing ruins. Local Native American legends speak of giants or bearded men who had the ability to move huge rocks, which may be an echo of the memory of this ancient, forgotten culture. Sacsayhuamán, with its grandiose walls and inexplicable precision, continues to stand as a silent challenge to modern archaeology, testifying to the presence in ancient times of knowledge and technologies that still remain a mystery to us, forcing us to reconsider the entire chronology of human development in the Andes. Abusir, mysterious sculptures and lost technologies of ancient Egypt. Among the endless sands of Egypt, north of Saqqara, is the little-known but no less mysterious Abusir necropolis. Although it is less famous than Giza or Luxor, it is here that some of the most unexplained artifacts have been unearthed in evidence uncovered that challenges traditional notions of ancient Egyptian technology. Officially, Abusir served as the burial site of the 5th dynasty pharaohs, and its pyramids, although smaller in size than Giza, still amaze the imagination. However, the real intrigue lies not in the pyramids themselves, but in their surroundings and artifacts that, it would seem, should not have existed in that era. One of the main mysteries of Abusir is the quality and precision of stone processing. especially basalt and diorite vessels and sculptures. These extremely hard rocks, 708 on the Mohs scale, which is comparable to granite and even some types of steel, were processed with such incredible smoothness and precision that it seems as if they were created on modern lathes. Many of these artifacts have thin walls, perfect internal cavities, and perfect symmetry. The question arises, how could the ancient Egyptians, with only copper and stone tools at their disposal, have achieved such a level of skill? Copper tools are too soft for basalt and diorite, and abrasive methods like sand and water would require an unthinkable amount of time and effort to create thousands of such items. Some researchers suggest that high-speed diamond-coated drills or some unknown chemical compounds that can soften the stone may have been used. In addition, Abusir unusual iron artifacts were found in Abusir artifact de Geleza, which date back to the period of the ancient kingdom when, according to official chronology, the Egyptians had not yet mastered the production of iron. Although these finds are few and often explained as meteoritic iron, their presence at such an early period raises questions about the possible access of ancient Egyptians to more advanced metallurgical knowledge than is commonly believed. These iron objects, if they are truly artificial, may indicate forgotten technologies or links to antediluvian civilizations that may have developed metallurgy. Another intriguing feature of Abusir is the orientation and layout of the complexes. Although they conform to the astronomical principles typical of Egyptian architecture, some elements seem unnecessarily complex for their time. For example, the remains of ancient sun temples have been discovered, which may have served for more complex astronomical observations than just tracking the seasons. These temples, with their unusual architecture, may be evidence of a deeper knowledge of astronomy and cosmology inherited from unknown sources. Some proponents of alternative theories suggest that Abusir, like other ancient Egyptian complexes, could be associated with unknown energy sources, or it can be used for some purpose that goes beyond the usual understanding. The papyri discovered here, such as Papyrusi, the Abusir papyri, although mostly containing administrative records, still hint at a complex bureaucratic system and a highly organized society capable of supporting such monumental projects. Perhaps these records contain clues to understanding construction methods that have not yet been deciphered. Abusir, with its mysterious sculptures, anomalous finds, and questions about technology, continues to challenge traditional Egyptology. It reminds us that ancient Egypt may have been much more advanced than we realize, and that many of its secrets are still hidden under the sands of time, waiting for the full discovery and reinterpretation of the entire history of antediluvian civilizations. Machu Picchu, the Inca sky city, and the mystery of its construction. High in the Andes of Peru, on a narrow mountain range at an altitude of about 2,130 meters above sea level, is the iconic city of Machu Picchu. Built by the Incas around 1450, this incredible archaeological site is often referred to as the Lost City of the Incas and the City in the Sky. It impresses with its location, harmony with nature, and of course, amazing architecture. Machu Picchu was abandoned shortly after the arrival of the Spanish conquistadors and remained hidden from the world until 1911, which helped preserve its mystical aura and numerous mysteries. The main mystery of Machu Picchu lies in its construction methods and engineering solutions. The city consists of more than 150 buildings, including temples, shrines, houses, and terraces, built from carefully crafted stone blocks. The Incas used a dry masonry technique in which the stones were so precisely fitted together that no mortar was needed between them. The seams are so tight that you can't even get a knife blade through them, and the walls show amazing resistance to earthquakes, which are common in this region. Some stones have up to 12 faces and fit perfectly with their neighbors. How did the Incas, who had only bronze and stone tools at their disposal, manage to carve and fit together these massive blocks, some of which weigh tens of tons? The quarries were located quite far away, and transporting stones over steep mountain slopes without using a wheel or draft animals is a colossal task. Traditional explanations involving thousands of workers and the use of levers and ramps seem insufficient for such precision and scale. Another mystery is the location of the city. Machu Picchu is built in a remote location surrounded by steep slopes and deep gorges, Why did the Incas choose such a difficult place to build? This suggests that the site had special strategic, religious, or astronomical significance. The city includes a number of structures, such as the Intihuatana, sunstone, the Temple of the Sun, and the Temple of the Three Windows, which are supposed to have been used for astronomical observations and rituals related to the sun and other celestial bodies. Their location and orientation indicate the Incas' deep knowledge of astronomy and their connection to the cosmos. Questions are also raised about the unknown destination of Machu Picchu. Although it is often referred to as the Emperor's summer residence or sacred sanctuary, its true function is still not fully understood. It may have been a major ceremonial center, a place for training priests, an agricultural center for growing rare crops, or even a holy city for the elite. The lack of clear evidence of a large population and defensive structures makes its status as a fortress controversial. Some proponents of alternative theories hypothesize that the foundations of Machu Picchu, especially its most ancient and monumental parts, may have been laid by an antediluvian civilization that preceded the Incas and had more advanced construction technologies. The Incas, in this case, could only complete and use existing foundations or ruins. The perfect stone processing and complex polygonal masonry found in Machu Picchu is often compared to similar techniques in other megalithic structures in the world, which may indicate a single lost source of ancient knowledge. Machu Picchu, with its stunning beauty, unfathomable construction, and atmosphere of mystery, continues to be one of the greatest archaeological wonders. It reminds us of the hidden possibilities of ancient civilizations and makes us think about the more complex and mysterious history of mankind, which is still not fully revealed. Stone Towers of Sardinia, Nuraghi and their unsolved purpose. The island of Sardinia, located in the Mediterranean Sea, is home to thousands of mysterious structures known as Nuraghi. These conical or truncated conical towers, constructed from massive uncut stones by dry laying, are the hallmark of the ancient Nuragic civilization that flourished on the island from about 1900 to 730 BC. There are about 7,000 Nurags scattered across the island, from the coast to the most inaccessible mountain areas, and each of them represents a miracle of ancient engineering. However, despite their abundance, the true purpose of these monumental structures is still the subject of intense debate and has no clear explanation. The main mystery of the Nurags is their colossal scale and construction methods. Many towers reach 20 meters in height and have a diameter of up to 10 meters. They are built from huge basalt or granite blocks, some of which weigh several tons, without the use of mortar or cement. The stones are fitted together with amazing precision, and the interior spaces, often false vaults, show a deep understanding of statics and architecture. How could the ancient people, without advanced tools and heavy machinery, move, lift, and stack such massive stones? Quarries were often located many kilometers away from the construction site, and transporting these giants through rough terrain was an incredible task. The lack of obvious signs of ramps or other construction devices only adds to the mystery. Another mystery is the variety of shapes and sizes of Nurags, from simple single towers to complex multi-level complexes with courtyards, corridors, and additional towers. This diversity indicates different functions or the evolution of architectural solutions over the centuries. Perhaps this indicates the gradual development of society and its needs. The main question that torments researchers is, what was the true purpose of Nurags? There are many hypotheses, and none of them is generally accepted. Perhaps they served as defensive structures or fortresses, protecting the territory and population from attacks. Their strong walls and strategic location on high ground are well suited for this purpose. However, many Nurags are located too close to each other, which makes their unified defense system ineffective. Another theory suggests that Nuraghi were residential towers for chieftains or elites, providing them with protection and status. However, the size of many Nurags seems excessive for simple dwellings. It is also suggested that they could be temples or cult centers associated with the worship of the sun or any deities. Their orientation to certain astronomical events, although not always obvious, may indicate this function. Some researchers associate them with ancestral worship or communal rituals. Finally, there is a hypothesis that Nuraghi could perform several functions simultaneously, to be both a dwelling, a fortress, and a temple, evolving in its purpose over the millennia. Some proponents of alternative theories suggest that Nuragi may have been built do potopnite civilizacije by, or influenced by an antediluvian civilization, using technologies that were lost. Sardinia is an island with a rich history and numerous legends about giants and ancient mysterious peoples. The very uniqueness of the Nuragic civilization, which has no obvious analogues in other parts of the Mediterranean, only increases the sense of mystery. Sardinia's stone towers, rising silently above the landscape, continue to keep their secrets, a constant reminder that the ancient world is much more complex and mysterious than we imagine, and that many civilizations of the past may have possessed knowledge and skills that still remain inexplicable to us. Göbekli Tepe, the cradle of civilization and its unexpected origins. Göbekli Tepe, one of the most revolutionary and mysterious archaeological sites in the world, is located in southeastern Anatolia, on the territory of modern Turkey, Göbekli Tepe. This ancient temple complex, discovered in 1994 and dating back to astounding 10,000 years, 9,000 years before our era, completely reverses the traditional ideas about the emergence of civilization. Prior to its discovery, it was believed that monumental construction and elaborate religious structures could only have emerged after the emergence of agriculture and a sedentary lifestyle. Göbekli Tepe proves the opposite. It was built by hunter-gatherers thousands of years before the advent of agriculture and the first cities. The main mystery of Göbekli Tepe is its incredible antiquity and complexity for that period. The complex consists of several circular and oval structures, including massive T-shaped limestone megaliths, some of which reach 5.5 meters in height and weigh up to 15-20 tons. These monoliths, arranged in a circle, often feature carvings of animals, wild boars, foxes, snakes, birds, and insects, made with amazing skill and detail. How could hunter-gatherers, who were supposed to have led a primitive lifestyle, have organized the extraction, transportation, and installation of such huge stones? The quarries were located at a considerable distance, and their movement required a huge effort and coordination of hundreds of people without the use of animals or a wheel. The tools used to work the stone were probably stone, but the precision of the carving and the smoothness of some surfaces are amazing. Another mystery is the purpose of Göbekli Tepe. Being the oldest temple complex, it probably served as a place for complex religious ceremonies or rituals. However, the exact nature of these rituals and the beliefs of the builders remain unknown. The lack of permanent settlements near the complex indicates that it was probably a place of pilgrimage, where people came from different regions for ceremonies. This indicates a significant level of social organization and the presence of a common, possibly proto-religious belief system that united different groups of hunter-gatherers. No less intriguing is the question of the burial of the complex. Sometime after its construction, approximately 8,200 years BC, Göbekli Tepe was deliberately and carefully covered with earth, probably by its own builders. This backfilling was done in layers, which implies repeated use and subsequent closure. Why was such a grandiose structure deliberately buried? Perhaps it was due to climate change, religious changes, or some catastrophic event that forced people to leave the place and preserve it for future generations. This conservation has helped to preserve the complex to this day in relatively good condition. The discovery of Göbekli Tepe challenges our entire timeline of human development. It shows that complex social structures, monumental art, and organized religion may have preceded agriculture, but not the other way around. This means that the concept of the Neolithic Revolution as the sole catalyst for civilization must be revised. Some proponents of alternative theories even suggest that Göbekli Tepe may have been built by survivors of an older, antediluvian civilization that possessed lost knowledge and technology, and that this complex was an attempt to preserve or transmit this knowledge in a new, more primitive world. The symbolism of animals may have carried a deep cosmological or mythological meaning associated with catastrophic events of the past. Göbekli Tepe continues to be one of the greatest archaeological mysteries, a silent witness to the unexpected origins of civilization and a hint of a much more complex human history than we could have imagined. Underwater cities of Japan, keys to Lost Mu or Lemuria. In addition to the already mentioned Eniguni monument Oniguni, the waters around Japan, especially in the Ryukyu Islands, are the cradle of numerous reports of other mysterious underwater structures. These underwater structures, if their artificial origin is definitively proven, may not just be individual anomalies, but part of a vast, now submerged continent or archipelago that is often identified with the fabled lands of Mu or Lemuria. Stories about Mu, a huge Pacific civilization that was destroyed by a catastrophic flood, have long stirred the minds of researchers and esotericists. Underwater finds in Japan provide physical evidence that these legends may have a real basis. The main mystery of Japan's underwater cities lies in their scale and diversity. In addition to the monumental terraces and walls of Yonaguni, divers and researchers report other regular geometric shapes, such as giant steps carved into the rocks, wide straight roads leading to nowhere, and even similar buildings located at different depths. Some of these structures look like artificially carved blocks or slabs stacked in regular rows. Although skeptics attribute many of these formations to natural geological processes, such as tectonic movements, erosion, or the formation of basalt columns, proponents of artificial origin point to all too obvious signs of intelligent design. For example, the presence of right angles, perfectly smooth surfaces, symmetry, and repeating patterns, which are extremely rare in natural formations. If these underwater structures are man-made, then their age is most surprising. Geological evidence indicates that these lands were above sea level during the last ice age, more than 10,000 years ago. So if these are really sunken cities, they were built by a civilization that existed long before? According to official history, people began to engage in monumental construction and create complex social structures. This directly indicates the existence of a highly developed antediluvian civilization in the Pacific Ocean, which had knowledge in engineering and architecture, capable of erecting such colossal structures. The reason for the flooding of these supposed cities is also of interest. The region of Japan is an area of high seismic activity, and powerful earthquakes combined with tsunamis could cause rapid land subsidence. The sudden and catastrophic disappearance of such a vast area underwater is in good agreement with the myths of Mu or Lemuria, which describe the death of the continent as a result of a natural cataclysm. These myths, which are common among the indigenous peoples of the Pacific Basin, can be not just fairy tales, but a collective memory of real historical events. The underwater cities of Japan, if their artificial nature is finally confirmed, will not only prove the existence of antediluvian civilizations, but also the key to solving one of the greatest mysteries of the Earth, the fate of mythical continents. They can serve as a bridge between legend and science, opening up a new, much more complex and dramatic chapter in human history, a chapter in which powerful civilizations may have flourished and disappeared, leaving only barely noticeable traces under the ocean's waters. Stonehenge, megaliths, the circle of stones, and acoustic secrets. On the Salisbury Plain in England stands one of the most famous and mysterious megalithic monuments in the world, Stonehenge. This majestic stone circle, dating from about 3000–2000 BC, consists of huge vertical stones, sarsen and bluestone, many of which weigh tens of tons, arranged in a complex, concentric configuration. Despite decades of research, Stonehenge continues to be the source of countless questions about who built it, how, and for what purpose. The main mystery of Stonehenge lies in the feat of ancient engineering that was required for its construction. Sarsen's giant sandstone blocks, weighing up to 30 to 40 tons, were brought from quarries located 30 kilometers to the north. The bluestone, smaller in size but still weighing up to 4 tons, were transported an incredible distance of more than 250 kilometers from West Wales. How did ancient humans, without wheels, heavy machinery, or even well-developed tools, manage to move these giant rocks over such distances across rugged terrain, rivers, and even the sea? Traditional hypotheses include the use of wooden sleds, ice rinks, a huge amount of labor, and a complex system of ramps. However, these explanations do not fully satisfy many researchers, especially when it comes to the exact placement of stones and their alignment. Another intriguing feature of Stonehenge is its striking astronomical orientation. The complex is aligned in such a way that during the summer solstice, The rising sun perfectly aligns with the main stone and the central axis of the structure. During the winter solstice, the setting sun also coincides with certain elements of Stonehenge. This indicates a deep astronomical knowledge of the builders, who probably used it as a giant calendar or observatory to track the seasons, predict eclipses, and perform rituals related to celestial cycles. The accuracy of this orientation for such an ancient structure is still amazing, but perhaps one of the most poorly understood and mysterious features of Stonehenge is its acoustic properties. Recent research has shown that the placement of stones in Stonehenge creates unique acoustic effects. When the complex was intact, its interior could act as a huge sound amplifier or resonator. Sounds made inside the circle could be repeatedly reflected and amplified, creating an echo effect that would be much stronger than outside the circle. It may have amplified the voices, music, or drumming during rituals, creating a hypnotic and immersive sound space. Some researchers suggest that blue stones especially resonate when struck, which could be used to create specific musical or therapeutic sounds. If this is the case, then Stonehenge was not only a visual, but also an acoustic marvel designed to affect human perception. Stonehenge's purpose is likely to have been multifaceted. It could have been a burial site, since human remains were found, a healing center, due to its acoustic properties and the supposed mystical significance of blue stones, an observatory or a gathering place for large groups of people. Who were these mysterious builders? They are officially attributed to Neolithic tribes, but their lack of written language and the lack of explicit tools to explain such scale and precision leave room for alternative theories about the influence of more advanced Antediluvian civilizations that may have possessed forgotten knowledge of acoustics, engineering, and astronomy. Stonehenge continues to rise silently above the plain, keeping its deep secrets, hinting at hidden opportunities and lost knowledge of ancient civilizations. Underwater cities of Lake Titicaca, sunken secrets of high-altitude civilizations. On the border of Peru and Bolivia, at an altitude of more than 3,800 meters above sea level, lies the mysterious Lake Titicaca, one of the highest navigable lakes in the world. It not only impresses with its beauty and size, but also keeps under its waters the evidence of ancient, perhaps antediluvian, civilizations. Local legends of the Aymara and Quechua Indians say that Lake Titicaca was the cradle of civilization, and its depths hide sunken cities built before the Great Flood. These traditions have been partially confirmed in archaeological discoveries, which, however, only deepen the mystery. The main mystery of Lake Titicaca is the underwater ruins found at its bottom. Since 2000, international expeditions have discovered in various parts of the lake the remains of massive stone structures that look like walls, roads, terraces, and foundations of buildings. The most significant finds were made in the area of the Kawada Peninsula and the Island of the Sun. The structures discovered consist of carefully crafted stone blocks that some researchers believe may have been part of monumental structures. Stones have right angles and signs of processing, which distinguishes them from natural formations. If these ruins are truly man-made, then they indicate the existence on the shores or islands of the lake of a highly developed culture that could build on such a scale. The question of the age of these underwater structures is a key one. The current level of Lake Titicaca is relatively stable, but in antiquity, especially after the last ice age, 10,000 tons, 12,000 years ago, the water level could have been much lower, and the shape of the lake could have been different. If these structures were actually built on land and then submerged, then they may be as old as 10 millennia ago as other megaliths supposedly created by antediluvian civilizations. This means that there may have been an advanced civilization in the Andes long before the appearance of the Tiwanaku and Inca peoples known to us. This hypothesis challenges the traditional chronology of human development in South America. Also mysterious is the connection of these finds with the ruins of Tiwanaku and Pumapunku, located near the shores of the lake. These above-ground megalithic complexes are known for their incredible precision stone processing and the use of huge blocks that seem to exceed the capabilities of ancient tools. If the underwater structures of Lake Titicaca are part of the same building tradition, it points to a unified but mysterious culture that possessed advanced engineering knowledge. Perhaps the underwater ruins were the oldest part of this civilization, which was submerged as a result of geological or climatic changes. Cause of flooding these cities also remain the subject of speculation. Climate change, melting glaciers, or tectonic activity may have caused significant fluctuations in lake level in the past. Legends about the Great Flood, which are present in the mythology of many peoples of the world, including the Andes, could be memories of real disasters that led to the flooding of these and other ancient settlements. Lake Titicaca, with its cold, dark waters, continues to hold its secrets, offering a glimpse into a possible past where advanced civilizations flourished in places that seem incredible today and were swallowed up by time and the elements, leaving only silent underwater ruins. The Temple of Osirian in Abydos water riddles and symbols of the Antediluvian world. In Egypt, not far from the famous temple of Sacsayhuamán in Abydos, there is a much more ancient and mysterious structure, Osirian. This colossal stone complex, submerged in perpetual partial shade and often submerged by groundwater, contrasts sharply with the elegant reliefs and carefully carved hieroglyphs of the neighboring temple. Built of massive granite blocks, some of which weigh more than 100 tons, Osirian's rough, monumental masonry and unique architecture is more reminiscent of the megalithic buildings of South America than the typical Egyptian temples of the New Kingdom. Officially, it is attributed to Seti, but many researchers believe that Osirian is much older, possibly being a legacy of an antediluvian civilization. The main mystery of Osirian lies in its incredible architecture and construction methods. It is a huge, rectangular, partially flooded hall surrounded by massive granite columns and walls. These columns and walls are made up of giant blocks of red granite, fitted together with stunning precision, without the use of any mortar. The seams are so thin that it is impossible to put even a blade between the stones. At the same time, most of the block surfaces remain rough-hewn, without the reliefs and decorations characteristic of Egyptian temples, which increases the feeling of its archaism. The question arises, how could the Egyptians of the 18th dynasty, who built from smaller blocks and actively used decor, have erected such a colossal structure, reminiscent of the style characteristic of much older eras, such as the Ancient Kingdom, or even other, much older megalithic cultures? Moving and installing hundreds of tons of granite blocks to such a depth and with such precision remains an inexplicable task for the technologies of that time known to us. Another intriguing feature of Osirian is its constant flooding with groundwater. This suggests that water played a key role in its purpose. The complex is located well below the level of the neighboring temple of Sacsayhuamán, which indicates its more ancient origin, when the water table was different, or that it was originally built in an aquatic environment. Perhaps Osirian was associated with the cult of water, underground rivers, or ancient ideas about the primeval ocean of Nun, from which the world arose. This connection to water and its monumental but raw architecture, which contrasts with the more civilized Egyptian temples, makes us think about the deeper, perhaps cosmogonic significance of this place. On the walls of Osirian, you can find the symbol of the flower of life, a very ancient geometric pattern that is found in many cultures around the world and is often associated with sacred geometry and universal knowledge. The presence of this symbol, which dates from the Sacsayhuamán period but is carved in a much older style, may indicate that the Egyptians inherited this symbol from older sources, or that Osirian itself is the legacy of a long-forgotten civilization that possessed this universal knowledge. Some proponents of alternative theories suggest that Osirian, it could be the remains of a temple or power plant of an antediluvian civilization that used water or other natural forces for its own purposes. Its massiveness and rough aesthetics may be signs of functionality, not decorativeness. Osirian, with its mysterious water chambers, giant monoliths, and symbols, is one of the most intriguing structures in Egypt, challenging the official chronology and making you think about the possibility of the existence of civilizations in ancient times, whose traces, hidden under the earth and water, continue to keep the secrets of the antediluvian eras. A journey through millennia and continents, from the megalithic walls of Baalbek to the underwater ruins of Dwarka, from the perfect spheres of Costa Rica to the colossal structures of enigma reveals a striking picture. It shows that the history of mankind may be much more complex, deeper, and more mysterious than is generally accepted in official academic science. Each of these objects, whether it is a temple complex, a city, or a single stone, carries echoes of unsolved mysteries that challenge our ideas about the primitiveness of ancient eras. We looked at structures whose construction, transportation of multi-ton blocks, and amazing precision of stone processing and fitting remain inexplicable to the technologies attributed to their supposed creators. Many of these objects display advanced astronomical knowledge, amazing engineering solutions, and even mysterious acoustic properties. They are located in the most inaccessible places, on the tops of mountains, in the depths of deserts, and under the waters of the oceans, which only increases the confusion about the motives and capabilities of those who erected them. Especially intriguing are objects found underwater, or those that, according to geological data, were built in a period much earlier than the appearance of the known advanced civilizations. If the underwater structures of Bimini, Dwarki, or Eniguni are truly man-made, then their existence indicates that 10 or even 12,000 years ago, societies capable of monumental construction and complex engineering projects were already flourishing on Earth. This directly correlates with numerous world myths and legends about the Great Flood and lost antediluvian civilizations such as Atlantis, Mu, or Lemuria, which were destroyed by global cataclysms. Perhaps these legends are not just fantasies, but the collective memory of humanity about real historical events and the predecessors of our current civilization. The secrets associated with the purpose of these structures are also multifaceted. Were they fortresses, temples, observatories, power stations, or some sort of time capsule designed to preserve knowledge for future generations? They may have served several purposes simultaneously, reflecting their creators' deep understanding of the world and the cosmos. Each of the objects examined is a silent witness who asks questions and waits for answers. Who were these brilliant builders? What knowledge and technologies did they have? And why were their achievements forgotten or erased from official history? The search for answers to these questions requires an open mind, a willingness to reconsider established paradigms, and the courage to look beyond the horizon of familiar ideas. The study of antediluvian civilizations is not just an attempt to solve individual archaeological puzzles. It is a way to understand the deep history of mankind, and perhaps to discover lost knowledge that could shed light on many aspects of our own existence. While these mysteries remain unsolved, they continue to call us to new research, new discoveries, and the realization that the world around us is much more amazing than we can imagine.